Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Cornette Experience. Today, the government shutdown will not affect our program, but Tony Khan's Feed a Starving Indie Wrestler plan may be shut down. All that and Dallas, Texas wrestling history for no particular reason except we want to. And joining me for all this and so much more, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. He never shuts down because he's governed by no one. The great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again for another action-packed week. And he doesn't want to sing his song just yet, but it will happen.
He doesn't want to. Well, he's going to one of these days.
One of these days he's going to. That was the point.
One of these days, my friend. You know, we got just horrible news. You know, and I tried, Brian. I tried going. Sometimes we have the happy talk, right? Where we talk about fun things at the top of the program. I tried to go through the news because there's usually a story about, I don't know, a Dalmatian that finds its own way home from the Arctic Circle. It's kind of heartwarming, or some kind of funny story about the foibles of human nature, like a burglar tries to break into a glass factory and ends up falling in the glass smelter and making a spectacle out of himself. But there's nothing, Brian. It's all bad. The news is bad, baby. It's bad. It's nothing but bad news and misery all around. And now the bad news and the misery has apparently been inflicted on the wrestling industry. Could this be the thing, the needle that pops the bubble, Brian, with all these big money TV deals? You know, they tried to make me a Nielsen family. We talked about that. These people are still calling me from a 513 area code somewhere up there in Ohio. But the ratings are changing that were already, as we saw, fucking flawed to begin with when we went through that little package they sent me. And now they're changing the ratings or how they do the ratings. And I don't understand a goddamn thing about it, because I've only had it explained to me by two so-called experts. Well, I haven't had it explained to me personally. I've read the writings. And if you've read the writs they've written, you'll know they're really confusingly written writs. Uncle Dave, who, when you give him numbers, he'll go on. And it just degenerates into brain salad surgery.
I study this.
And he studied, you know, the numbers all make sense to him. And then there's...
Because he wants to learn. You have to want to learn.
He's a student of the game. I wish he'd learn how to write concisely enough that any other human being besides his own tortured mind.
Oh, those are insults.
Could possibly.
If you're issuing insults, you've lost the argument.
Well, no, I didn't issue them. I emitted them.
Well done. Well put.
They emitted from me. I didn't issue them. If I put them down in my next book, we'll talk about my new book later on, but my next book, I'll put them in and I'll issue them. But nevertheless, and also the learned scholar over there at the Flummox place, I don't know. I saw an email where he was trying. Who was that? Thurston Howell?
WrestleNomics. Thurston,
yes,
not Thurston Howell. Brandon Thurston is the editor or the boss, or he owns it, whatever the fuck it is.
Well, he was trying to explain it, and it doesn't seem to be abundantly clear there either. But all I needed to see, Brian, all I needed to see was one statement from our friend Uncle Dave. One statement that puts it all into perspective. It says pro wrestling's value to television right now looks to be taking a very significant hit across the board. I see the bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way. I see earthquakes and lightning. I see bad times today. Also bad organ playing.
Hey.
Hope you got your things together, wrestling companies. And I'm looking at you, Tony Khan, when I say this, because the WWE not only has more money now than has ever been printed before, but they're also having their pictures taken with that glory hound in the Oval Office. So they're pretty safe. But holy mackerel, if the ratings get worse, the only thing that has been agreed upon by everybody that's said anything about this, Brian, maybe you can shed some more light on this, is that the new way that they're figuring the ratings, wrestling is suffering. Football did better. And some shows are only doing a little worse, but wrestling sucks ass in this new system. And don't the rights fees at some point down the road here in the next few years have to somewhat be concurrent with the people? If AEW is losing viewers already on television, which we've established that they have since they started, and then they lose more because they changed the rules, is this good? Or anybody else that wants to get in the wrestling business? Or already in and we just don't pay any attention to it?
I don't know if it's good for wrestling. I don't think it really affects necessarily streaming platforms. Those numbers are what they are. But we've always said the issue with television ratings is the accuracy. The business, the advertisers, not the wrestling business, the television business has always run on this model using these ratings. But they are far from accurate. For whatever reason, there's no just direct, everyone who has a cable box, here's what everyone's watching. There isn't any of that. It's an assumption based on how many people do keep track of the ratings.
Who would have thought that wearing an ankle monitor somewhere on your person, if you're over the age of 6, that while you go about your daily life, that will hear signals that are hidden to the naked ear that you come in contact with as you traverse the goddamn town? Who knew that system could be flawed?
And we'll get to, I have the article here that Brandon Thurston wrote for WrestleNomics, and we should plug them if we're going to talk about this. WrestleNomics is on Patreon. You can subscribe there for all the information that they have. But it's important to note, last week, right after we recorded the experience and we did the AEW Dynamite ratings, which as of right now are not in for this week. They may not be in by the end of the show. But right after we came out, what was it last week? Like 636 or something?
I believe so.
Reports started coming in that Programming Insider had a different number, and that number was like 100,000 less. And apparently it was somewhat similar, I want to say, for NXT. Whatever the number was that came out the traditional way, the Programming Insider number appears to be the brand new big data plus panel, that's what they call it, Nielsen way of grabbing the ratings, and it showed significantly 100,000 people on a show with 600,000 viewers. That's a sixth of the audience wasn't there. So what you said before, I think, is that this should help wrestling. It helped football. You would think it would help wrestling, and it's gone the other way so far, early on. To explain any of this, because I don't think we've done that at all.
Yeah, well, and also, nobody apparently understands why this thing is so, as of yet, that wrestling has taken a hit over this, even over us. I mean, as we mentioned, some programs were slightly up or slightly down. There's some variation, but wrestling is like whammo, and nobody's taking a swing at trying to figure that out yet. But when they say, what the fuck, just words out loud. That's the explanation for me. What is big data plus panel? What is that terminology that they're using now to describe this horse shit?
Again, going through the article from WrestleNomics, up until now, generally, Nielsen TV ratings data has been measured with the panel-only methodology, sometimes called automatic content measurement, or ACM.
That's what I always called it.
That's going to be phased out in Q4 of 2025, which is the current quarter year. Nielsen's going to big data plus panel. panel-only data has been based generally on a representative sample of households whose viewing is actually being metered. The national...
Okay, well, hold on now. That's what traditionally, in one form or another, as we've mentioned, before they had the ankle monitor thing, you had a demographic and geographic and numerical cross section of people that were supposed to represent the greater number that either had a old diary that they'd write things down in, or then later on there was an actual gimmick box on their TV that could tell what they were watching, and that was extrapolated multiple times to get the number. So it was still obviously not a real accurate system.
It was a sample. It was a sample size, and everything was derived from that, whether or not it was a realistic number or not. Back to this article here. Nielsen claims that big data plus panel will improve accuracy. The Media Rating Council, whoever they may be, has accredited the methodology, which at least means the nonprofit third-party organizations that's intended for this very purpose agrees it's a credible form of measurement. So whoever this third-party group
what is that form of measurement, though? What is big data?
Big data plus panel.
It sounds like Big Daddy.
Big data plus panel uses massive device-level data from set-top boxes and smart TVs. Panel data is also in the new methodology to validate the big data and scale measurements. Last week, this is from WrestleNomics here, last week, and in every report up until this writing, we have reported panel-only data for traditional TV ratings. Starting today, I expect we'll see big data plus panel TV ratings. And trying to see if there's anything here that explains how it affects the wrestling ratings so far. This certainly explains the discrepancies we saw last week in TV ratings reports from Programming Insider and others, including WrestleNomics. In general, under big data plus panel, I expected that we would see telecasts with generally higher viewership measurements. But so far, for the wrestling telecasts, for which I have measurements under both methodologies, viewership is mostly lower. Still, other telecasts measure higher. It seems like telecasts that have a younger age skew, in some cases, tend to measure lower with big data plus panel, but it's by no means consistent. And by the way, I mean, there are less and less young people watching TV, and the AEW key demo, we've seen that number shrink and shrink and shrink. So I don't know how much that would be the thing here, but it seems like they say it's going to be more accurate.
Well, but it's not just AEW specific, but it's also WWE as well, and they have, well, the kids. What about the kids? Does anybody think about the kids? But it's Uncle Dave is, again, his statement is nobody has been hurt as badly as WWE and AEW. Reasons why aren't known. But the NFL did get gains, but maybe the NFL is behind this.
See, that's part of the problem, though, in my estimation. And again, I don't have a methodology that I'm applying to this, just my own sense. That's going with the idea that the numbers we were getting were in any way accurate, which I don't think they ever were, especially the last few years. And that's also going with the idea that all things being equal, if we took a real number, if we got a real number of how many people were watching these shows, it would be higher. And it takes out of the equation that Dynamite's been terrible. And Raw and SmackDown, if you're lucky, you get one or two segments worth watching, but there's slogs to get through. It's not Bill Watts' Mid-South Wrestling, an action-packed 60 minutes that you can't miss. There's plenty you can miss, and people do.
Well, this may not bode well, Brian. It may not. Their whole business these days is everybody's is built on TV rights. TV rights. I want TV rights.
I'm just wondering how they get it from smart TVs. You have a smart TV, I know, in your house. I have a smart TV here. Do they just get that information, or do you have to opt in?
Well, there's this guy that has been coming by for the last several months. He knocks on the door about once a week and just goes behind the TV and does something. I don't know what. He's back there for a little while. I don't know why he has to pull his pants down, but he says it's real tight back there.
And one last thing. This is from Nielsen themselves when they put out a press statement a few months ago. Big data plus panel national TV measurement combines Nielsen's unique high-quality representative panel measurement with data from cable, satellite set-top boxes, and smart TVs across 45 million households and 75 million devices. There's a number. That's the sample size right there.
Well, that seems like that would be more accurate than a bunch of people up in fucking Dayton, harassing people on the phone to put on their ankle monitor.
Do you know anything? I mean, one last thing about this, and I know we've talked a lot in the past about Nielsen, and you've had different experiences at OVW where test patterns did record numbers and all sorts of things. But when they find new Nielsen homes, new Nielsen families, like they tried with you, is it something where everyone in your neighborhood is hit up, or is it something where it's one person here, one person miles away, one person in the next state? Like, how is it done? How many Nielsen homes would there be in a community?
I don't know the answer to that question, Brian, because most of the people, live around here won't speak to me. But no, I have never thought to ask the few neighbors that I am cordial with. Hey, did you get a fucking $2 in the mail from Nielsen last week? It's never come up, but that is a good question.
Ever since you brought it up, we've had a bunch of listeners say that it's happened to them since then. We've had listeners post in the Cult of Cornette Facebook group, like pictures of the money. Like, here's the money. Here's the evidence. I got $2.
Show me the money. Well, that might be so, but actually think about this. If it was in any way even ever intended to be legitimate as far as a cross sampling, then one would imagine that you wouldn't just blanket a neighborhood because you would be picking by some mathematical formula. Okay, 37% of the country is Methodists that, eat fucking ice cream. So we got to find 37 Methodists that eat ice cream or whatever the fuck, right? So a bunch of the same kind of people probably live in the same fucking general neighborhood. One would think that wouldn't be a wide cross section of age or race or sex or genre or whatever the fuck.
Every single day, Tony Khan's family collects countless millions of dollars because of their patent and everything that brings in. So money is no object. You could overspend on anything. And he wants to make this wrestling company work. 6 years. There are people saying, 6 years, he's getting better. No booker has ever gotten better after 6 years straight, and he was bad from year one. But should Tony Khan consider buying 500,000 smart TVs? And just getting a warehouse, maybe a warehouse in Alabama where there's lots of warehouse space?
You're talking about Tim Horner with unlimited funds.
Well, no, but this is, yeah. I mean, but this actually would work if they're actually measuring the smart TVs. I don't know. It may be worth it for Tony. Get a big boost.
Remember when years ago there was an early podcast entity, without naming any names, that we swore to God in some way or another had to have some hut in Bolivia downloading over and over?
Yeah, the one where the guy literally told me that the numbers, he didn't think they were real and he blamed his partner? Yeah, that one, yeah.
That one, yeah. Is there some type of farm, like they have the Russian bot farms you hear about? Is there some type of farm where you could just pay some black market dark web service to download your shit millions of times so you can get famous with the numbers? I don't know.
Tony's farm. Thanks Guys Farm. Thanks Guys Ranch. Welcome to the Thanks Guys Ranch. I'm a real farmer. I think it would work.
That's a South Park episode. As a matter of fact, Tony Khan looks like a South Park character without, the goddamn...
Without the blinking.
without the blinking. I was going to say without the bother of animating his face, but you kind of succinctly cut to the fucking chase there. But nevertheless, we will continue to monitor this situation as far as who's rating who with what, and whether these are the, when we give numbers, we're going to tell you whether they're the old-fashioned fake numbers or the newfangled fake numbers. Because we believe in accuracy and the fakery.
Hey, you said there were no good stories in the news. I got one here at the New York Post. Kentucky cheerleader Lakin Snelling
Oh, good Lord.
took selfies while giving birth and then popped out to grab McDonald's. That's a Kentucky headline for you.
Well, I would encourage laughter, except in the middle of that, there's the issue of the dead baby that was left in the closet.
Yeah, she's a Kentucky cheerleader, I believe.
And those fucking douchebags over there apparently have their entitled noses up their own asses in a variety of ways. They just ran one off for having a racist outburst and attacking a security guard here a couple of years ago. And now this douchebag.
You're talking about a cheerleader?
Well, no, just one of the general University of Kentucky type women that go to the University of Kentucky. Entitled white people. Now, this one gave birth in the closet. I didn't know about the selfies, but they've had her in the news for a while, gave birth in the closet, and then apparently left and went apparently to McDonald's, and other people discovered, hey, there's a dead baby in the closet. And nobody has come outright and said whether the baby was alive or dead when it was given birth to. But going to McDonald's after either doesn't indicate a lot of remorse or whatever emotion you're supposed to feel like in that instance. Even like, let me get as far as fuck away from here as possible. Oh, but I'll stop at McDonald's.
Maybe that was what you thought the alibi would be. Oh my God, whose baby is this? Surely it's not that woman with the fresh Big Mac.
I had a line there, but I shouldn't because there's babies involved. Yeah. But anyway, but yes, this is the college youth these days. No wonder we're all headed to shit. You know what, Brian? Here's the thing. If you don't trust the ratings of the TV that you're watching, or you don't trust the TV you're watching in your own home not to be reporting all kinds of things now, apparently, to these various entities, you could just unplug everything and sit down and read a book, couldn't you? A book cannot harm you.
No.
There are no tracking devices in books. There's no goddamn recording or eavesdropping or electronic emissions. Even if you don't have electricity, you can still read a book, at least in the daytime. The only thing that will keep you from being able to read a book is if you don't have $24.95, because that's how much the son of a bitch costs. Heroes and Friends, ladies and gentlemen.
That's
from Jim Cornette. That's that son of a bitch, Jim Cornette, has written a book, and it's got pictures. There's pictures in it. We've been talking about this for weeks now. It goes on sale Saturday, October the 11th at jimcornette.com, noon Eastern time. Wherever you are in the world, figure that out. And as we've mentioned, simply put, the book is a dozen of the most unique and fascinating individuals that I've known and interacted with in the wrestling business in various different ways and descriptions, complete with photos from my own collection that I have taken, and from my voluminous memorabilia store and archive, also the Pro Wrestling Enterprises Wrestling News files. Thank you, Brian. And so much more. And you can go to jimcornette.com right now. Instead of me just wasting your time, go to jimcornette.com, click on the banner for the book, and it will take you to the listing of the book for more information on the book. And they can be autographed because they are not acceptable for legal tender in any country that has jurisdiction over me. But also, On October 11th, the sale goes into effect for the holidays, the 10-20-40 sale. $10 off Jim Cornette action figures, $20 off tag team sets, $40 off the Midnight Express 4-pack, plus new 8x10 photos, sale price on Behind the Curtain, some more trading cards that we have unearthed, and a few various things that are going to sell out the first 15 minutes. So get there quick. October 11th, noon at jimcornette.com. Are you going there then, Brian? You have, is that your wind chimes? Is the wind blowing again in your living room?
A very special message from Jim Cornette.
Well, thank you. It sounds like the fucking Jack Handy, a special message from Jack Handy. I got a special message for you because I came up with something and you said you were interested in it. So I saved it until we could just talk, you and I, Brian, here, just with a few million people eavesdropping. But we've talked about here on the program when wrestling promotions suddenly get hot and get popped. And in my Heroes and Friends book that I just referenced, the story of Pat Malone, the Green Shadow, popping Nashville wrestling and Knoxville wrestling in the 40s when it was pretty much, it was dead in Knoxville and not doing well in Nashville. Or Sputnik Monroe in 1959, Memphis was dead and suddenly they're doing ballpark shows. And it at various points in time, different promotions have gotten hot, but we don't talk a lot about how bad they got before they got hot. It can go the other way. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because while I was working on something else in the office a week or so ago, I have Fritz von Erich's 1977 booking book from Dallas, from the Dallas wrestling office. And I was looking at something else, but I picked it up and I've had it for years and have not looked at it since we've had these discussions and with a specific eye toward what I was looking for. But when I did, I don't think that anybody, all the world-class documentaries about how hot world-class was in the 80s and the TV syndication, the Von Erich boys, the Freebirds, Gino and Chris, and everybody's seen the tapes and the footage. And in 1977, Dallas, Texas for wrestling was so fucking dead that if the Von Erich boys had not come along, I believe by 1980, Fritz would have been like the Sheik and out of business. And
that's a remarkable statement for a whole bunch of reasons.
And it just, if you look at financially what they were doing, and then who that they would lose, that because Paul Bosch was the key to this, the Houston promoter, and we'll get into it in a second. But in overall terms, I didn't realize until I looked to pay attention at specifically, because when I first got it, I looked at the names on the cards and, the different notations he'd made and all that was cool, but I never sat and looked at it from this perspective. Dallas, Texas, one of the biggest cities in the country, Dallas, Fort Worth, they ran both. The Metroplex, right? They were drawing maybe 1,500 people sometimes, if that, in Dallas at the Sportatorium. And barely anything more usually in Fort Worth. And the spot shows were just dismal. The only town, and we've heard this said, and it really was true here, that was doing well in this part of Texas, was Houston, where they had the booking alliance with Paul Bosch, but Paul Bosch still brought in his own particular stars, major names, big main event, and he used the Dallas-Fort Worth office talent to fill out the cards because he couldn't fly 20 guys in, right? But if it wasn't for Houston, a lot of these guys, I don't think they would have been able to afford to stay in Dallas because the payoff that they got for a lot of these Houston shows was probably equal to what they made working the rest of the week for Fritz.
Let me ask you something and say a couple things here. What year did you say we're doing? 77 or 78?
Yeah, the 77.
77. So this is before Joe Blanchard split off as well, correct?
Well, they are going, yes, they're going to San Antonio. They're going to Corpus Christi. Yeah. So this was when they still had the South Texas towns.
Houston was always the money town. And, you know, I've heard it talked about, and it's funny just considering this conversation about wrestling. You know, the TV show Dallas, which was all about these successful oil men in Dallas, was actually supposed to be about Houston. Like, that's where you find successful oil men, in Houston, not Dallas. And Dallas sounded better. Dallas worked. The show was Dallas instead of the swamp known as Houston. But Houston was the money town. And for many years, I mean, we're not for a while around this period of time, but Houston was the booking office in Texas. And Houston would book out talent to Dallas and everywhere else. And that changed, even though Houston remained the money town.
Well, and Morris Siegel, and basically, as you said, Houston was the main town in Texas that booked the talent out, and Morris Siegel and his, oh my God, his brother, what was his name? Geez, nevertheless, once they died and Paul Bosch, in 1967, I just mentioned, I've got the program for his first card, purchased the promotional rights in Houston. That was the same time where just the previous few years, Fritz had bought Dallas, and Fritz was more in with the NWA as an ex-wrestler and a star in the Buffalo territory and St. Louis.
That's the key right there, was the relationship with Sam Muchnick.
Yeah, with Sam Muchnick. And so as Fritz started, and see, we should go back and say, I'm not saying that Dallas always sucked for wrestling, because Fritz drew a ballpark crowd in the 60s for a world title match with Gene Kiniski, and they had done big money in the early 70s at another stadium show. But as Fritz got older and his crew got older, the same thing was happening to him that was happening to the Sheik in Detroit. The Sheik's business was big, much bigger than Fritz's business during that promotional war with Bruiser that we talk about so much. But then the same thing happened after the war was over. Sheik's crew aged out, and boom. And they were still doing better in 1977 than Fritz was in Dallas. And Sheik was coming down to work for Fritz. But point being, Dallas, there had been some money there in the past, but now in the middle of the 70s, with Fritz getting older, the boys had not debuted yet. Nobody knew they were going to be, they could have been a couple of more promoters' sons, like, so, but then, people knew that Fritz wanted his sons to be wrestlers, but they weren't in the ring yet. So this was 1977 when wrestling all over the South.
Kevin had started by that point, right?
He's not in the book, not in January. Let me go to December. Here's November. Okay, I think he started in 78. No, wait, hold on. Kevin and David in November. I think they started late in the year. Yeah, Kevin's here later on. So point being, and son of a bitch. Oh no, that's just an anomaly. I was going to say business came up, but no, it took a minute. But yes, so Kevin started first, I believe, somewhere in the summer, and then David. Anyway, they were a couple years away. See, this is another thing. And Brian, we've talked about this. In 1979, 1980, when wrestling fans started trading tapes for the first time, because if you were a wrestling fan in those days, if cable came available wherever you were, you got it to see wrestling. And if a lot of people started getting VCRs to trade wrestling tapes from other territories. So at that point, everybody wanted the Georgia show on Superstation TBS, but since, it was on cable, it was easier to get. People wanted Mid-Atlantic wrestling. They wanted Mid-South wrestling. They wanted Tennessee wrestling. And honestly, Florida, my God, how can I miss Florida? The only thing that they didn't really want on tape from the South was nobody was interested in Dallas wrestling. And this was the boys had already started, and they were starting to get over with that audience. But this was also still before they got with the people at Channel 39 and got the syndicated TV and changed their name to World Class Wrestling. It was still Southwest Sports Presents Big Time Wrestling. And they had that 2-hour TV show on Saturday nights on KTVT, probably the biggest independent television station with the biggest signal and the biggest population for at least 500 miles in any direction, probably farther. But it was Brian, I've told you, it was the most boring, slow-paced, elementary, rudimentary TV show that you can imagine. You could hardly get life in it. So it took a few years for them to, first Kevin and David, and then some of the younger talent came in, because as we're going to see, the talent, when we finally talk about this cards, the talent was as blasé, to be honest, as the rest of the show. And they needed some youth. They needed different guys. There's guys here that had been in and out of Texas for years, or guys that were just, past their primes or whatever. And Fritz, I've said this, that office, when they got so hot, they were selling out Reunion Arena. They were still running the company out of that fucking rat-infested sportatorium. And it was, a bunch of wonderful, well-meaning guys, and I love Bronco Lubitsch. But the office was a joke as far as running a business grossing anywhere near that amount of money. They just they took off, and the infrastructure wasn't there. And that's why when the whole thing fell apart, they couldn't save it. But at the same time, if they'd had a real company going, in Dallas, Texas, one of the biggest fucking markets in the world, they wouldn't have made it through this year. You want to hear some of this, Brian?
I do. and let me just say, I don't know if, even with that bad office, as you put it, I don't know if anyone was going to be able to save that office, save that town, 87, 88, 89, 90, considering everything that was happening outside the ring.
But even if they had had a business office as professional, even as Crockett's, I hate to say that, but
no, you're right.
It's just
they should have taken more advantage of Massachusetts. They only went up there one time when they had the biggest.
No,
ratings.
I'm just talking about getting an actual legitimate place that you could have people come in and do fucking business. They couldn't.
Yeah,
they're in Dallas, Texas. And yes, and they worked with Channel 39, and they could have meetings at the TV station, but they couldn't actually even have some big fucking local car dealer like Paul Bosch did, where he had the local furniture store and the car dealers and all these sponsors of his TV program that paid him money. They could have him come into Sportatorium and sit down in Ken Mantell's office. My God, a rat would peek his fucking face out. That's why it was set up to be a small time deal, and they got really hot for a few years, and somebody that had first count made a fucking fortune. But boy, let me give you an example. The first week of January of 1977, and I have this book. This is Fritz's book. He wasn't the booker. He didn't make the matches or whatever, but since he was the boss, he would have the cards written down usually for Dallas and Fort Worth, and then he would have the just the names of the talent that was booked out into Houston or into Corpus Christi or San Antonio or whatever to the other offices through the state.
Did
right?
most promoters have a book like that?
Yes, everybody did. But it also has the Dallas ticket prices and Fort Worth ticket prices. And since this was 1977, basically Dallas Sportatorium was $4 ringside, $3 box seats, $2 general admission, $1 children, and 50 cents more at the door. What a fucking miser, which was actually a goddamn pain in the ass because back then nobody paid with a credit card. You had to fucking fumble with the quarters, right? It was down to this, that they were making people come up with an extra 50 cents or giving 50 cents change.
What was your other option if you didn't buy it at the door? Where could you get tickets for world class, or it wasn't world class? Where could you get tickets for big time wrestling at the Sportatorium?
Nowhere that I'm aware of. That you would have to go to the Sportatorium and fucking knock on the goddamn window and I guess Bronco or whatever. At Will Rogers Coliseum, they had a box office. And it was saying that ringside was $4, box $3, general admission $2.50, or reserve general $2.50, and general admission $2, and 50 cents more at the door. The point is, they didn't have, when we talk about these figures, and this is for Dallas and Fort Worth, I don't know if they weren't still at, say, 3 and 2 for spot shows. But assume they have, the ticket average is not $3. The average ticket it's $2 and something, right? When we talk about how many people might have been there.
With inflation, what would that be today?
Well, in 1977, $1 is equal to $5.35 today. So basically, you could have sat front row for $20. But it was
for
every
a weekly
week.
territory. Yeah, for a weekly territory. That's fair, I think.
Well, but not a lot of people were doing it. Because in those days, the schedule, which they changed later on by the time that I got there in 1985, but they would run Fort Worth on Monday at the Will Rogers Coliseum, Dallas on Tuesday, the very next night, 50 miles from point A to point B away. But it's Dallas, a whole different city because of the Metroplex. Then Wednesday would be San Antonio, Joe Blanchard. Thursday was Corpus Christi, which I don't know who the local promoter was, but that was part of the South Texas territory that would eventually be Southwest when Blanchard broke off. Friday nights was Houston, and then Saturdays would be spot shows around the state, and sometimes they would have Houston on Sunday. But otherwise, they would book their guys out to, like, the Funks were still running Amarillo. I think it was the last year before they would sell to Blackjack Mulligan and Dick Murdoch. So they'd book guys out on Sundays. Gary Hart, Detroit. Ivan Putski, New York. Cian Karras. I can't read this scribble. Huh. Casey to Amarillo. Hanson out.
Who would they have booked Gary Hart into Detroit with?
The Sheik.
Managing the Sheik?
Well, no, working for the Sheik, because the Sheik was coming in and out to work for Fritz.
Right. But who would he be managing? I actually don't know.
I don't know either, but he was there several times. But the point being, they never ran on Sunday out of the Dallas office. I think potentially it was the old-fashioned thing. Well, that's church day, or potentially because I don't know if Fritz was religious yet or not. The point being, let's get back to this. January 3rd, 1977, in Fort Worth, Texas, a major city, a battle royal is on the card. Listen to the names: The Sheik, Andre the Giant, Black Gordman, the Great Goliath, Scott Casey, Tony Charles, Les Thornton, Tiger Conway, Moondog Maine, Lord Alfred Hayes, Butcher Brannigan, Frank Valois, Gary Hart. Well, now it's Gary Hart and the referees, manager and referees. Anyway, 12-man battle royal, and I assume then matches out of the order of elimination. But what was the gate, do you suppose, for the Andre?
What was the date?
What was the gate?
What was the date?
What do you think the gate was?
Yeah, what was the date?
Oh, January 3rd, 1977.
January 3rd, so first show of the year. They had Andre, it seems like a few other Januaries too, because I think he did that in January 84 for them, right as the national expansion started. Andre and Dallas, $6,000.
$3,397.
Wow.
That's it. Let's say the ticket average $250 or whatever. We're talking 1,500 people, maybe. The next night in Dallas, here's the card: The Sheik versus Andre the Giant, Gordman and Goliath against Thornton and Charles, Lord Alfred Hayes and Scott Casey, Big O.
Big O.
Potentially, that may be. Is that Bob Orton Sr.?
It can't be. I may have the programs. I think I got to double check.
Well, never some Big O against Moondog Maine, Butcher Brannigan, Skip Young. Point is, Sheik versus Andre in Dallas, Texas. Care to take a guess on the gate?
And this is a week after the previous card, which was the first of the new year.
No, this is January 4th.
This is the next day. Excuse me.
Next day. First Dallas show.
If the other one was that, I'm going to go with $4,000.
$5,945. So they probably got 2,500 people at the Sportatorium. But then I won't play guess the fucking date. But this is their big week with Andre the Giant. San Antonio did $4,151. Corpus Christi, $86.63. Corpus Christi, you couldn't draw fucking money if you dipped somebody in glue and drug them through Fort Knox in 1985, but they came out for Andre. But anyway, point being, 30-something hundred, 50-something hundred, 40-something hundred, 80-something hundred. Houston on Friday night, Andre and Sheik, and basically that whole same crew, except Dusty is there also. Bob Ellis is there. Gino Hernandez, Jose Lothario. Paul brings in his own talent to augment the Dallas crew, and they have a 2-ring battle royal, $27,997. Houston drew 8, 12, 7, more than the rest of the week.
Hey, I grabbed
and the guys would get payoffs on that from Paul Bosch. Go ahead.
I grabbed my Dallas 1977 folder, and I think I have just about every program from this year. The Big O is a photo of him here. It says in the program for January 4th, 260 out of Oklahoma versus Moondog Maine. It looks like Ron Bass. It may not be, but in this photo, it looks like him.
It may very well be, because either that or he didn't make it. And then that Saturday night, they did Killeen and Austin with, believe it or not, Mil Mascaras on the card in Austin, Texas, and did $2,600, and Killeen, Texas did $2,200. And that was their big week. I want to skip ahead, and let me give you some figures for February, Brian, because again, this is what I was saying. It's insane that not only were they doing this level of business in Dallas, that was a major American city and with talent that was noted elsewhere, but again, Houston, the saving grace. And even in February, I think this could have been the start of cracks in Bosch's relationship, because they were dragging Houston down. Houston was in single digits with Dusty on the card. And then, of course, we'll get into, as we close this thing up and move on, the fact that the first crack with Paul Bosch and the NWA was when Harley Race miscommunication missed a big show at the Summit this year, 1977. And That was the first of two, and that led to Paul Bosch splitting from not only the recognition of the NWA champion, but from the Dallas office, and aligning himself for, I think, almost 2 years with Joe Blanchard, the AWA, the San Antonio office, etc. But listen to this. The first week of February, Fort Worth does $2,118. And the next day, Dallas does $4,000. The next day, San Antonio did $1,969. That's like 700 people, even at these cheap ticket prices. On the 3rd of February, Harlingen, Texas, down on the Mexican border, did 1,536, and Corpus Christi did 1,218. And then they followed that up with Houston on Friday night, doing $4,040. This is the lowest Houston figure I can find. And then they went to Killeen on Saturday for $1,200 and Austin $2,200. But the following weeks, nothing changes in their main territory really, except Houston does 13 grand. Houston does 13 grand. Houston's back down to 8 grand, but it's still almost equaling the rest of the week's take from the territory. I don't see how they could have kept this up. And they've got Bruiser Brody on these cards. And they've got Ivan Putski has come in by March. You know, things are jazzed up a little bit with Brody, and, you know, they're into the $4,000 and $5,000 range, but again, it's pretty dismal.
Yeah, listen to this card. Tuesday, February 8th, 77. This is in Dallas at the Sportatorium. Opening match, George McQuarrie versus Butcher Brannigan. Second event, Dan Burdick versus Scott Casey. Who, was he a rookie then, or had he been around a few years, I guess?
Scott had been around a couple of years.
The third event, Bruiser Brody versus Tank Patton. I'll list the main event last, even though that's the next match listed. The final match of the evening is the semifinal. This actually sounds like a great match. I don't know if it will draw. Les Thornton and Tony Charles versus Gordman and Goliath. That's probably a great match.
In the ring, it would have been a masterpiece.
And the main event is a body slam battle royal. Black Gordman, Grand Goliath, Bruiser Brody, Moondog Mayne, Tony Charles, Les Thornton, Scott Casey, Butcher Brannigan, Ivan Putski, Tank Patton, George McQuarrie, and Dan Burdick. Body slam in ring or on floor eliminates. So they're doing wacky matches and having, you know, barely any star power. I mean, Bruiser Brody's a star, sure, but there's not a lot here.
I mean, you know, you skip ahead in July, just real briefly, Fort Worth still does $40-something $100. So does Dallas. San Antonio is under $2 grand. Corpus Christi does $745. Some of these towns are doing $1,200, $1,600. So Corpus Christi was canceled. As a matter of fact, the next week after it did $745. And they didn't come back they went to Harlingen the next week for $900. They came back to Corpus Christi in August 1 week and did $2,500 and canceled it the next week. I mean, they were canceling towns. Meanwhile, you know, Houston again is the only one that's hitting double digits, and sometimes it's not. But here's where I was going to go with this, and we will end this for right now, and I'll just give you some comparisons of what happened later. But it was May 29th, 1977. This is when Paul Bosch had been promoting that they weren't going to be at the Sam Houston Coliseum, as they always were. They're going to the brand new sports arena in town, the Super Sunday at the Summit. And because for some reason, I don't even remember why, if it was necessary to hold the crowd, I don't think it was. They just wanted to do a date, or they had to do a date or whatever at the Coliseum was booked, and they made it a Super Sunday. And they had 2 world titles, Harley Race versus Terry Funk for the NWA title. And because this was where Nick Bockwinkel had started being, interested. Paul Bosch and Nick Bockwinkel started their relationship in the late 70s to where Bockwinkel had bought into the company, into Houston by the time that he wanted to retire there. But then, shit fell apart in the 80s. But nevertheless, Bockwinkel got over with Paul Bosch that night or that day. Wasn't that when nobody told Harley it was an afternoon show, was the story, or was that the second one?
That's the second one, I think. That's the story. The first one, I want to say, was it that he was running late? There was no way to get to them? Which one was it where the fans literally saw him arrive and get to the building as they were leaving?
I thought that was maybe that was this one. Nevertheless, Harley didn't make it. So Bockwinkel worked with Jose Lothario in his build match and then went out and went an hour with Terry Funk. And Paul Bosch hated no-shows and replacements, especially a world title match. He was bullshit. And when it happened the second time, he not only, as the story goes, thought the NWA had it in for him, but also with the NWA booking office in Dallas that he was relying on to provide him in his town with a lot of these cards, even though he'd fly in Ernie Ladd or Mil Mascaras or whoever the fuck, he needed, their American champion, American tag team champions, blah, blah, blah. So I can see why he was thinking, well, what the fuck? Anything could be better than this. And he ended up within the next couple of years bailing out and switching and joining Joe Blanchard. But these houses are dismal.
And also, importantly, he didn't take a hit leaving the NWA, switching title recognition, and bringing in Nick Bockwinkel as a champion. He also started bringing in Junkyard Dog before the official deal with Watts, when he was doing stuff with Southwest.
Yeah.
And
see, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a remarkable couple of years that probably doesn't get the attention it deserves in certain respects. Everyone knows how good Nick Bockwinkel was. And Flair won his first title on your birthday in 1981.
Yeah.
But from like that period of time, in 81 through 83, Bockwinkel's in the biggest drawing stuff in the AWA with Hogan, which ain't bad. He's having big drawing matches in Houston with the Junkyard Dog and others. He's having amazing matches in Memphis. The stuff with him and Lawler. Again, another place where they switched recognition, went to the AWA. Flair's great. We all love Flair in 81, 82, 83. But I almost think it's kind of a step down from Bockwinkel at that point in time, maybe in those specific places. When Flair came in 82, it was a one-off, but the energy in Memphis was different than it was. Just the energy alone. And again, it was a one-off. He was there once, but 81, 82, 83 is the period where Bockwinkel almost becomes a touring champion. There's a match with him and Manny Fernandez in Southwest that's out there. That's fantastic. He was a touring champion as the AWA champion for a couple of years.
And Bockwinkel, he actually, of all the guys that, you mentioned as being world champions, Nick was the best in the ring all around at having a match with anybody. He just was tremendous.
Like, I would take him over Harley Race at this period of time. Promo, everything. In terms of being a world champion, he gave off the aura of being a world champion more than others.
And, truthfully and honestly, the reason why that he stayed with Vern, he could go where he wanted to go, but he was based in Minnesota from 1970 through the end of his career, was because of that reason. Instead of trying to conquer the world and like Harley and Flair and burning yourself out, he could work 15 days a month for Vern. He told me this in 1983. I could work 15 days a month for Vern and make $150,000 a year and then do shots when I want and take seasons off. He loved that. And he was making a fortune. He was a smart guy. So he obviously was saving money too, but he was in the best position of all of them and was the oldest. But nevertheless, the point being, on that show in May, where Harley miscommunication, no showed, whatever, the gate in Houston was $32,765.16. If you take out the other two Houston shows in May, that was more than the rest of the territory drew all fucking month combined. So that's the point that I'm making, is that, and we can look more at this if anybody's interested, because I've got the whole year here, but when Paul Bosch pulled out, and he was going to, because nothing really happened, to change that before the boys got hot. So when Paul Bosch pulled out, if the boys had not, the Von Erich boys had not already been gaining ground in Dallas and starting to get some more interest going, I think the territory would have folded up. They'd have been like the Sheiks. They'd have been like Bruisers. It was just, there wasn't any reason for top talent to go there, because there was no money in those payoffs. And even with the talent that they had, which was, there were talented guys there, but nobody was young and new and fresh and hot at that point. And I bet they weren't fucking happy. So, that's the reason why that a lot of times territories would die, is it would become a self-fulfilling thing. If there wasn't enough money in the payoffs for top talent to go there, the only people you would get was people who had no other choice. And if you've got, bless them, here in July in Dallas, or June in Dallas, Tommy Siegler beat Mike York, the Alaskan. Reno, the Samoan, beat George McCreary. Gino Hernandez, who was a rookie at that point and had just started. Drew Scott Casey, Jimmy Snuka, who was on his way to the Carolinas to make some fucking money. Drew with Big John Studd, who was a giant waiting for fucking Vince to find him.
Well, no,
and then Andre.
He had already been up there as one of the executioners. This is him establishing himself without the mask.
That's right. That's right. I'm sorry. The year before was the Executioner, 76. But he was getting the fucking gimmick, and Andre and Brody on top. But again, Andre and Brody drawing fucking $7,000 in Dallas, Texas. It's just, but the rest of the card. So then you had the Von Erich boys get hot, start getting a little interest back in the local fans in the territory. They still had the same old TV, so it wasn't like beating the world. And then suddenly they get that syndication, but also the talent changes. And Gary Hart was always a proponent, as a booker, was always a proponent of younger talent and fucking, different guys. But by 1982, when everybody starts talking about it, who's drawing the money? Well, let's look at Christmas. Hold on here, because I've got another thing I can look up the card. We'll look at Christmas 92 or 82 and then go on. I'm just fascinated by this shit.
Christmas 82 is the big angle that sets off the entire Freebirds Von Erich feud. Of course, Gary Hart leaves right away, so he doesn't get to ride that wave. Ken Mantell does, even though he didn't come up with the angle. But the rest of that card, I'm guessing it's going to be like Bugsy McGraw, King Kong Bundy, Superfly, maybe. Not Superfly Snuka, just Superfly.
Well, no, hold on.
Skip Young.
Now.
Is Skip Young on the show?
Hold on,
it was
because
an
now
crew.
Remember, they didn't run Christmas Day in 1977. There was no Christmas tradition in Dallas, Texas. The shows in December 1977 in Dallas had drawn $3,900, $2,800. The office was closed, and $6,700 on the 2 days after Christmas, the 27th. That was it. All of a sudden, because of the Von Erich boys and the Freebirds and the things that they were starting to do, that they were changing the talent, at least at the top. Kabuki the Magic Kabuki and the Magic Dragon with Gary Hart and all this other shit. They ran Dallas Reunion Arena on Christmas 1982, 5 years later, and had 18,000 people.
I have the, in case you want the card, I have the program here, December 27th.
I got the card in front of me. That's why I was fumfering until I found it. But that's the point I was going to make is still the undercard, as you mentioned, was uninspiring. Brian Adidas, who was a school friend of the Von Erichs, beat Frank Dusek, bless him, who worked in the office. And Jose Lothario and Al Madril against Checkmate and the Magic Dragon. Checkmate was Tony Charles, was still around.
Yeah.
Lone Eagle, the midget match. Lone Eagle beat Little Tokyo with special referee Bugsy McGraw. Serious, yeah.
Oh my God.
But then Ken Mantell, who was the booker, I didn't know that he was still working at that point. He was a rotten physical looking specimen in 1985. I can't imagine him in tights in 1982, but he won a battle royal. But Kevin Von Erich beat King Kong Bundy. And Bundy was new at that time. He was still fresh. That was the first time he was King Kong Bundy.
That's kind of towards the end of Bundy's run there. And of course, it was months earlier where he had the retirement match with Fritz Von Erich at Texas Stadium, which, if you ever see that footage, it's at night. It's not the Texas Stadium crowds of a few years later.
No.
That's one of the things where you can kind of see, because it's the same building, the difference in the Dallas territory having a really good night and a record-setting night in the middle of a record-setting run.
Well, see, this was the turning point, is that for those of you who don't know what we just referenced, Fritz, when he retired in 1982, and he hadn't been wrestling regularly, but this is my retirement. He was already so fucking old and just looked old.
He looked older than he was. That's the issue.
Yes. And he had the balls to do it at Texas Stadium and against King Kong Bundy. And as I recall, the match sucked, but also there was 6,000 people in the stadium. But as soon as they started focusing on the boys and the Freebirds and the Gino Hernandez and fucking the young folks. So anyway, the rest of the card, Kevin beat Bundy.
Then you get that six-man match. Does it say who the phony shark is?
I'm about to tell you. Hold on here a second. David beat Bill Irwin. This is another thing that they always did. They would have these big shows. They didn't have enough guys in the territory to fill in the fucking card. When they got successful, they'd bring in some outside guys, but they still had the habit. They just have a special match where people had to work multiple times, right? So they had a 6-man tag title where it was Hayes and Gordy and supposedly Roberts against Iron Mike Sharp and Ben Sharp. Did Mike have a brother named Ben?
It's Iron Mike Sharp with a phony Ben Sharp, a play on Mike Sharp's father and his brother Ben, but it wasn't, I forget who, I want to say it was Kelly Kiniski, but that can't be right.
Well, and then some other schlub, Tom Steele, but they instituted the 6-man tag team titles that night, and David substituted for Buddy Roberts, who was late or whatever the fuck, and then gave the belt to Roberts. But so they established that the Freebirds were baby faces and that they were friends of the Von Erichs.
Well, that was established in the TV building up to it, because when they announced that Michael Hayes was going to be one of the guest referees the guest referee in the main event with Terry versus Flair, that was a thing to celebrate. The Freebirds were good guys. So David Von Erich earlier this night, as a show of what a good guy David Von Erich is, helping out the Freebirds to win these belts and knowing he doesn't even want the belt. He doesn't deserve it. He's just a good guy. It plays into the betrayal so perfectly.
Yes, and because people are so used to the Freebirds Von Erich's feud and rivalry, they start thinking, oh God, they always hated each other. No, they presented them as baby faces at first and friends. But then the main event was the NWA title, Flair and Kerry in the cage. Hayes was the referee. Gordy was watching the gate and they slam the fucking door on Kerry's head and start the whole thing. But the point is, in 5 years, they had gone from almost the stench of grisly death about them to running Reunion Arena and drawing 18,000 people. And that was the start of a run of about 3 years where, as Dallas, Texas should have, they were drawing some of the biggest crowds in wrestling in the country. But it hadn't been that way just 5 years beforehand. And if the Suns had not clicked and they had not made these changes in the product and gotten the bigger TV or the better looking TV, they would have been, the Sheik was out of business in Detroit. And it had already been taken over by the, well, I hadn't actually even been taken over yet because the expansion wouldn't start from Vince.
No, it had been taken over by country music on their own television show.
Yeah, big time wrestling, big time country. But my God, Dallas, Vince wanted Dallas from the start. Can you imagine if it had been this product that was drawing 1,500 people to the Sportatorium in the worst part of Dallas on Tuesday nights instead of, wow, everybody in town is watching this shit? He could have waltzed in there and just picked it up.
Yeah, and again, it's a different time, but a few years later, both Bill Watts and Jim Crockett had thoughts on Dallas being the centerpiece of something, and it didn't work out because it had already been killed by everything that had happened. But, when you talk about the Suns, it's interesting. Kevin debuts at the end of 76, famously his first matches with Paul Pershman, the future Playboy Buddy Rose. David's after that. Kerry's still in school. Kerry's a while after that. Gino starts. Tully starts. Tully, out of all the promoter's sons in Texas, is the first one to actually get involved, I think, in The Office. And then Gino, correct me if I'm wrong, and you have the books. Gino is actually the first son to make an impact at the box office because he meant more to Houston early on than the Von Erichs did early on. Not to say they didn't mean anything, but it took a while to build up Von Erich mania. Gino was kind of slotted in a great spot early on and then turned heel early on. And he meant more to Houston than anyone else may have meant anywhere else in that territory for a little while, at least.
Yeah, because this is even before the run he had with Sheik, which I'm going to say was maybe the next year, 78. But Gino was like a 19-year-old, presented as a 19-year-old, prodigy. And, the great looks and a nice baby face, blah, blah, blah. And because the Sheik was working in Texas, he needed, after the war was over with Bruiser, he needed somebody new, young, still had blood in their veins, and brought Gino up, and they gave him a push as the, fucking shocking U.S. champion at 20 years old or whatever. In I think 78, I saw some of the TVs, and so, he was, people were pulling for Gino and considering him a talent early on.
I think Gino was the first of any of the sons to wrestle at the Garden. I think he was the first one to go to Japan. He did a lot of, again, Paul Bosch took care of him, but also he held up his end. Gino was trying more as a wrestler and a worker in the late 70s than he was in the mid 80s, even though he was great in the mid 80s.
But he'd been on those fucking hard Texas rings for all that time. And he figured out, I need to put my hands down and also just fucking lower the count on some of these bumps. But anyway, that's the thing, is they would have been cooked because you couldn't have somebody would have come in and taken it over. It looked like the San Francisco situation in 1960 when Roy Shire went in and just took it away from Joe Mankiewicz because he just didn't have any shit going on.
When you were in Dallas, did you have cable TV?
Yes.
85. I'm just curious about that because remember when they brought the Freebirds in 82, they presented them like they were friends with David, even though Michael Hayes and Kevin had been on Georgia TV, on TBS. So I was just always curious, were those shows not seen in Dallas in 82? or 81?
You know,
Did they not know that
there's-
Kevin had this relationship with Michael Hayes, not David?
There's two explanations for that. Number one could be that they didn't have cable in Dallas in 1981, maybe not availability, because, and that's not crazy, folks. The big cities were actually longer in those days to get cable than the smaller towns because they had different companies bidding on the franchises. And the bigger companies wanted the bigger cities. Or the second thing is they just didn't goddamn know. And just came up with, because that's the thing, the Dallas office, the creative team there would just come up with some ridiculous fucking statement to make and then just make it. And because Fritz thought that it was still in the 60s, you could just tell people shit and they'd believe it and had no other way of finding out anything. So who knows? But it ain't the 60s no more, Brian.
Oh, no.
You can't just make money under false pretenses, just telling people any old simple story and get them to believe it and then take their money as a result of the bullshit story that you've made up that they believe. You can't do that anymore. It's not the 60s. You got to have professionals coming up with your bullshit. It's got to stand up to scrutiny. If you're going to con some sucker out of his money, you've got to have professionals helping you every step of the way to make your shit look as legitimate as possible so they won't know that they're being conned and flim-flammed and bamboozled and taken advantage of, and you're selling them a bill of goods. You're sending them down the river. You're barking up the wrong tree. I could go on with these similes, but if you really want to fuck somebody out of a good amount of money, you need Shopify.
Once again, Shopify, a wonderful company. We work with them. They power our online store.
Oh, they fucked a bunch of you.
They have not done anything of the sort, and you won't do anything of the sort, ladies and gentlemen. This is not for any cons. Save that for some other world. But for right here, the honest world of commerce and business, what we're talking about is a partner you could trust, a partner that the consumer can trust. See, that's the thing, Jim. It's a two-way street. We can trust them, and so can the consumer.
Which way are you going? Both ways?
Right into the wall, it seems like. But our friends at Shopify, a great company. Let's just talk about how wonderful they are and all the wonderful things.
Let me do that.
They can do for you. There it is.
Talk about how wonderful they can make you money like that. I'll talk about how wonderful they are because let's say you've got some kind of harebrained scheme or preposterous plan, or maybe something that you've given some thought to that you think you could really put something over on somebody and flim-flam them out of most of their fucking funds.
An honest business plan. Let's just say that.
If you have this concept, you need to take it to somebody that can help make it a reality. You need a team of henchmen alongside of you. People that can accelerate your content creation, make up phony shit.
Good people making real stuff for you. No shit, no fakery. There it is, the Shopify way.
Well, you can build a beautiful online store that'll look gorgeous on the outside, but meanwhile, you can trap them on the inside. Get the word out. You need a marketing team behind you to go out and spread the word. Hey, do business with old Joe because his shit works. They won't tell these people where Joe is or how to find Joe after you, Joe, have gotten their money. You can be gone away and nobody will know how to find you or how long you've been gone.
Again, this has taken a rather dark turn here this week, folks, but we want to tell you about the positives of your
Shopify.
Business.
It's got they're your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns to building the platforms to writing the product descriptions to marketing the merchandise. You don't get that big if you ain't crooked as a country road, folks. So
there's no crookedness on this straight road to business.
To Shopify and business and making money at other people's expense. Right now, turn your big business idea into cha-ching. Cha-ching. Turn it into that, whatever that may be. With Shopify on your side, sign up right now for your $1 a month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/JCE. That's shopify.com/JCE for cha-chinging sounds in your cash register that will indicate that you have been having money placed there regularly by people that you don't even know. Shopify.com/JCE.
In an honest fashion. That's right. Shopify.com/JCE.
Honestly, they'll strong arm a son of a bitch in a heartbeat.
Very nice people. We work with them. You can too. Shopify.
Yeah, don't piss them off.
Let's say nice things about them here at the end. Great people, great service. That's what you need for your business. Shopify.
Yes.
God damn
I'm scared to say anything else.
Shopify, your friends to the end. And we're here at the end.
Well, Brian, before we go any further with the program, I'm having something is coming across the news desk here over at the castle. This is from a fellow named Ralph Jackson on Twitter has sent me, do you have your Antonio Inoki keychain there with you that you're trying to play the music? Because he has given us some information on these models of these collectibles and how that they might be operated.
Oh, that's the beginning of the Ichi ni Sanda chant, and then, of course, the famous Tagada. And I've seen some of these people with their guesses. None of them have gotten to say, hold it down. Here's me holding it down.
No.
They say there's a button or a pressure point somewhere. There's no pressure point or no button.
Listen to me. I've got an expert here that's trying to tell you, you're just all fucking head up over nothing. It's got a impact activation. Since it's themed around a wrestler, it might have a motion or impact sensor. You try slapping or tapping the face head area moderately hard, like Inoki's famous fighting spirit slaps,
okay, I'm
but not too aggressively to avoid damage.
I'm slapping the shit out of this thing. He's... Whoa.
Aha!
No, that was a scream. Like, it almost sounded like...
Slap him again. He'll scream again. He'll squeal like a bitch. Slap him. Slap him in the face.
There was just a scream there. Did you hear that? Yeah, no, nothing.
It just hit him. Kick it some more. Now, I will say users report this works on some versions, but it could drain batteries faster if overused. Now,
this fucking thing.
there's also some other options here now.
Oh, yeah.
Because the toy could be defective, which is a common issue with these Iwaya-produced items, as many eBay and collector listings note non-working sound even in new condition. You might need to contact a toy repair specialist or look for replacement parts online.
Again, let me just jump in real quick. When I got this, I got 3 of them. There's 3 different ones. I said, I'm opening one of them because I want to hear it. And of course, the batteries were dead. Didn't do anything. I replaced the batteries. I fixed the corroded areas because parts of it had been corroded. This is from 1998.
Yes.
And the music plays. It's just one every... I've heard it at least 6 times. But just not now.
Never on the air.
No.
You hear these songs play, but no one else can hear them, is what you're saying.
The pressure point. If I push from his head, that's that. I'm pushing it so hard his legs are bending. Jeez.
Wait a minute now. Hold on. Here's another one. Try holding it for 2 to 3 seconds to trigger the song.
1, 2, 3, 4. See, fuck it. Goddamn. Now I'm debating, should I open one of the other ones? I was going to keep the other 2 closed. Do I need to open one of the other ones, fix the battery
Oh, yeah,
ports?
because they're Fabergé eggs, and if you open it, it'll ruin your children's retirement.
I mean, I didn't think these Inoki things were going to be worth a lot of money. I just figured, why open it if I already have one open in a white robe?
Because the one you got open doesn't work. Now I didn't know you had 3 of them. Now you're just wasting all our times. Me and Ralph Jackson over here.
Do I give up on this one and open another one? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think you ought to throw that one out the fucking window.
Well, that's not going to
happen.
happen.
Let the lawnmowers run over it. That'll teach him. You've already slapped the shit out of it.
Now listen, the bottom thing that you push, it's the base of the bottom of this, and it feels like you could kind of like shift it up or down or left or right or press in the middle, but everything does the same thing.
I'm not telling you what to do with Antonio Inoki's bottom. You can shove it or twist it or knead it or slap it or do whatever you need to do.
All right, well, this is a great segment. The mystery continues.
I was just trying to give you, I didn't mean for you to just go completely insane there. I just was trying to give you some information here. You might have been able to use in some reasonable fashion.
Whoa.
Can we? Sounded like it just jumped off a bridge there.
Every few times it just screams now. That's a new one.
It's because it's.
Ah! All right, can we get away from Tiger Da?
And later on, it's going to say, "My name is Antonio Inoki, and I'm going to kill you."
Trying to mellow out here.
Well, why don't we talk about the mellow tones? Oh, would you stop it now? For heaven's sake, would you stop? Let's talk about the mellow tones of Pro Wrestling Illustrated that is named the 500 wrestlers that they think will sell them some fucking magazines this year.
Well, I presume you're speaking of the 35th annual...
Yes, I'm speaking to you. Yes.
The 35th annual PWI 500. Wow, this got really big on my screen. How do I reduce the size of this fucker?
Well, it's supposed to be the 500 best wrestlers, but as we've established over the last couple of years, it's they list about 20 wrestlers at the top that they think will sell them some magazines, and then 480 people that call themselves wrestlers. That's basically where we're at here.
Well, Jim, let's officially say how it's done. Here it is from, is it December? It is the December 2025 edition of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the 35th annual PWI 500.
Boy, they like to get the jump on the holidays, don't they?
Boy, they really do. If this was 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they'd be right now putting out what, like the May 2026 edition of the magazine? They always had a big jump on everything.
It used to take 90. No, that's the thing is they would be 3 months in advance, but you would get a, how can I say this? You would get a magazine that was reasonably cover dated. Like if it was in May 2026, you would get a May issue, but it would have been printed in fucking February by the time they get it out. So they would always be 3 months. And now they're still 3 months in advance, but they just have it out instantly.
Yeah, and by the way,
it's witchery.
I think I may have broken my finger hitting that Inoki thing. It really hurts now, but let's...
Well, see, you're beating a senior citizen over there. Elder abuse.
The PWI 500 evaluation period is from August 1st, 2024 through July 31st, 2025. The criteria: in-ring achievement. That's win-loss records, championships, tournaments won. Influence: your visibility and prestige within a promotion and or the industry. Your technical ability: the quality of moves, matches, and in-ring storytelling.
Oh,
competition: success against the most varied and highest quality opponents. And finally, activity: minimum of 10 singles, non-tag matches total, or, barring this, 6 such matches in separate months. That's very interesting. I never had to have that qualifier years ago. You have to have at least 10 matches or 6 matches in 6 months. There's a committee. I won't...
I've zoned out on that Marcus drivel, but did anybody talk about box office in there at all?
In-ring achievement, influence, technical ability, competition, and activity. Not necessarily, no.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, in that case, they They'd have to hurt a lot of feelings if they considered the box office, but go ahead.
And for the record, they have a committee, and our friend, and certainly the person lending credibility to this committee, Brian R. Solomon, is on the committee. Publisher, editor, not the editor either, the writer, the author of the brand new Gorilla Monsoon book, Irresistible Force.
He did it all, but now he's attached his name to this. Are they just paying him for his credibility here?
This list prioritizes success in singles competition and in vying for heavyweight singles accolades, and to a lesser extent, those in lower weight classes. Jim, number one on the PWI 500 for 2025, Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes.
19 years pro. He was number one in 2024 as well. And it says here, side hustle, co-owner and coach at the Nightmare Factory Wrestling Training Facility in Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, hopefully he's not relying on that to send the children and Pharaoh through college.
Here are see, this is interesting. Here are the top 5 moments during the evaluation period. Number 1, he beat fellow world champion Gunther to win the inaugural WWE Crown Jewel Championship in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, November 2nd. Number 2, defeated friend turned arch rival Kevin Owens in a thrilling ladder match to retain the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble, Indianapolis, February 1st. Number 3, became the 2025 King of the Ring after defeating Andrade and Shinsuke Nakamura in a 3-way. That was in the last year. That's crazy.
That's a literal where are they now of wrestling.
In a 3-way qualifying match on June 13th. He beat Jey Uso in a semifinal bout on June 23rd and Randy Orton in the tournament final in Saudi Arabia, June 28th. Also, number 4, he retained the championship against Solo Sikoa in Bloodline Rules, August 3rd, 2024. And finally, he bested Kevin Owens, the Bash in Berlin, August 30th. This is last year. This is last summer this shit happened. Jesus. But yeah, that's why Cody Rhodes is number 1.
A fine list of accolades. And it also just so happens that Cody is the top babyface for the biggest company. And I bet they put him on the cover, didn't they?
I believe so. I don't want to scroll back up because I'll lose my place here in this list.
Well, it's not worth it, but I would, yeah. So now by process of, we got to make sure Tony Khan, the billionaire that runs the only other company that's on any kind of national TV, doesn't fucking get pissed at us. So which one of his band of merry pranksters did they pick to come in second place so they could at least act like it was a horse race?
Well, at number 2, Jon Moxley. 21 years pro. Last year he was number 8, and his ring style is brawler.
Oh, God. His ring style is wretched. Again, I understand that they had to have some AEW talent in the number 2 spot, and they're going to dribble and drab these out over the top 10 because they got to be somewhat fair to the fan bases, and the AEW fans are a little more fanatical. But Moxley, out of even anybody in AEW, they don't want to feature anybody else besides that.
It says here, it wasn't always pleasant to watch, but Jon Moxley's 4th run with the AEW World title.
Wait a minute. When is the last time a favorable fucking statement or piece was written that started out with, well, it always wasn't? Good Lord.
But Jon Moxley's 4th run with the AEW World title was certainly impressive, spanning across 10 months and 7 successful title defenses against both legends like Cope and Samoa Joe.
But he was champion 10 months and defended 7 times.
And hungry contenders.
Flair would have called that the second week of April.
And hungry contenders, including Jay White and Powerhouse Hobbs. He received many an assist from his Death Rider compatriots, who were always nearby to lend a helping hand, or a plastic bag. Since taking on the role of a sadistic cult-like leader a year ago, Moxley has undoubtedly found considerable success, but has also worn thin the patience of some fans. especially when so many of his matches devolve into nauseating gore. Moxley's blood. This is a positive review of him.
Nauseating gore.
Moxley's bloodlust is well documented, but so too is his natural charisma. And it seems he sacrificed one at the altar of the other. Despite recent title losses, Moxley remains one of the top names and stars of AEW.
Well, I'm certainly happy for him. So I guess now we got to swing the other way. Are they ready to bring in? They certainly at number 3 can't bring anybody from TNA or outside the country in that high. So we're going to go back to the WWE, aren't we?
We are number 3, Gunther. 20 years pro. It's crazy to see that. Last year he was number 9, nicknamed the Ring General.
They should try to discourage, and I know it's probably too late and the announcers have done it a million times, but they should try to discourage the announcers or anybody or Gunther himself from talking about him being a pro for 20 years. He looks younger, and I would lean into the experienced veteran professional without quantifying that it's because it makes him. I know he started when he was a teenager. Also, he was a chubby little fellow, but it makes him sound older than he even really is. But that's just me. But I'm glad to see him getting some recognition even though, let's be in all fairness, yes, in the ring, and he's wonderful to watch. But as far as being the third biggest star in the wrestling business over the last year or whatever the period, he wasn't. Was he? Did I miss it?
No, I mean, again, it's an interesting list. At number 4, Hangman Adam Page.
Oh, good God.
17 years pro. Last year he was number 42. And it says here, and I never heard this before, trained by Jimmy Valiant.
Poor Boogie. I would imagine that if Adam Page is from Virginia, and he apparently really is, that he probably at some point as a teenager ventured to Boogie's wrestling camp in Shawsville, Virginia, where he, I'm sure, was encouraged to continue, because I've seen some of Handsome Jimmy's students, and at least Page is full grown.
Or did PWI confuse Hangman Adam Page with Hangman Bruce Pobans?
There could be an element of that also.
Or were there 2 rival hangmans at Jimmy Valiant's school? One of them was a bullshit artist named Bruce Pobans, and the other one was a young Adam Page.
I bet you that somebody else had a hand in Page after Boogie broke him into the basics. But okay, they've gone back to AEW, but again, boy, howdy. And I'm not saying Gunther should be in, even though I'm a big Gunther fan, he shouldn't be in the number 3 spot. Cody is number 1. Obviously, he's the biggest babyface, the biggest company. But if Moxley and Page are the 2 fucking folks that you got to stick in a top 4, but obviously we're headed back to the WWE next before we are. Is there girls in this too? They're going to make the women mad if they don't hit one of them, or are they a separate list?
I'm not sure yet, because I haven't scrolled down and we have to get there. Last year, I think there were women on the list, even though there was a separate women's list. I don't think it was 500. That may have been 250 or 200, maybe $1.25. I don't know. But let's
77. Go ahead.
Let's get back to this list, Jim. At number 5, Hiroki Goto. 22 years pro. Last year, he was number 125, and his signature move is the GTR spinning headlock lariat backbreaker.
So now they've decided, for all the New Japan fans who are probably, more predisposed to buy the magazine, we got to go for number 5 too. But last year he was 125 and now he's number 5. What is it? Is he causing riots in the streets to come see him? What's happened here?
Goto's unlikely late career surge was fueled by tragedy, as the death of his father inspired the 22-year New Japan veteran to make one last serious run at the IWGP World Championship, having failed in his 8 past attempts to capture the title. Yeah. He's on top of New Japan. Well, we'll move on from there, Jim. Number 6.
Okay, I'm still, if he hadn't fucking lost the last 8, I would think that, maybe that was a good story. But at that point, holy shit. Nevertheless, the Japanese folks, they love a good feel-good redemption story. They love a thing that feels good to just rub you the right way.
Well, Jim, at number 6, 17 years pro. Last year, he was number 17 on the PWI 500. This year, number 6. Main event, Jey Uso.
Boy, when they present it like this, the WWE's not putting up a big fight either at the top of the card, are they? Where the fuck is Roman Reigns? Where the fuck is Punk? Where the fuck is Rollins? Where the fuck are some of these stars? Yeah, Jay's over. Jay's popular. Maybe that Jay will sell some magazines. But that's besides Cody, he's got Gunther and Jay to back him up in the top 6 already.
One word, 4 letters, feat. As in, what an incredible feat it was for someone pigeonholed for nearly 2 decades as one half of a tag team twin act.
Wait a minute, did you say someone pigeon-toed?
Pigeonholed.
Is that why they've got happy feet, the Usos? Are they pigeon-toed?
He's pigeonholed, it says here, and he was pigeonholed.
Oh, boy, well, if you get pigeonholed, shit, you need to go get one of those fucking kits. Get checked out.
Well, that's number 6. Number 7, Jim, Swerve Strickland. 16 years pro. Last year, he was number 2. Previously, he was in the military, U.S. Army Reserves.
Before he was number 2, he was in the military. God bless America. I would have, well, I mean, he didn't have the greatest year because of the lousy booking, but I would put him above Moxley and Furnham, the other fella. It just on the basis of talent, if nothing else, since they're not going by box office or any other legitimate statistic, they're just alternating back and forth. I would have put him up above the other 2.
Yeah, if they were going by box office, I don't think Hiroki Goto would be anywhere near this list. Number 8, Jim, 17 years pro. Last year's number 4, Seth Rollins from The Vision.
Well, at least we got some fucking star power, as Vince used to say, name recognition on the list for the WWE. But yeah, yes, he's one of the top 10 biggest names currently in the wrestling business, so he belongs there. I'm questioning a few of the others.
Even without any gold, the Visionary did some of the best work of his career over the last year, cementing his status as arguably WWE's most complete performer. All right, that was number 8. Number 9, Jim.
Yes.
Mystico. 27 years pro, last year's number 10, and his nickname is the Prince of Silver and Gold.
Well, honestly and truthfully, if we're going on box office, while Mystico's work, and again, a lot of people, Jim just doesn't see how good Mystico is. No, I don't. It's like I don't see pink elephants either. But if we're going by box office, he ought to be farther up the list because he's on a hell of a fucking run in Mexico, drawing the big crowds on a weekly basis like the olden days. So, he can't work, but he's over with a certain audience, and he should continue to perform for that audience and leave our goddamn eyes alone.
Yeah, this was based on box office. You couldn't put Moxley above him.
Good Lord.
You could argue that he'd be number 2. I mean, if WWE has the number 1 spot and you have to put something else as number 2, he'd be number 2 based on box office.
Based on box office, you couldn't put Moxley in a goddamn box.
Well, Jim, at number 10, 13 years pro, last year's number 3, Will Ospreay Nickname, the Billy Goat.
I'd have left the nickname off. Osprey, boy, how quickly we forget. He's only been gone a month. We forgot about him. I'd have certainly put him ahead. I don't care about their shitty booking. Just to have a decent looking, young, athletic person as the face of my company instead of a balding, simpering plumber, I would have put Osprey higher than, oh, shut up, John. I'd have put Osprey higher just to, at least he presents some kind of positive image.
Well, he's injured. So we'll see when we see him again. And now, Jim.
So Swerve.
Swerve? Swerve's injured too? That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Well, Jim.
Everybody's injured.
At number 11, Kazuchika Okada.
Oh, for Christ's sake. All right.
The Rainmaker.
All right. No. He couldn't make it rain if he pissed on your fucking head.
Listen to this positive review. Only Japanese wrestler ever to top the 500, had a fine freshman year in AEW, even while competing below main event scene. Beat longtime rival Kenny Omega at All in Texas to unify the titles. Still, could use more motivation.
Wow.
Number 11 needs more motivation. Oh. Jim, number 12, Joe Hendry.
Again, all right. I get that they have to include some of the other companies eventually. And I like Joe Hendry, and he, got over and got the people chanting his name and doing the whole thing, singing the songs. Everybody loves to sing. I love to sing about the moon and the June. But the 12th best wrestler in the world is not Joe Hendry.
At number 13, Zack Sabre Jr.
Oh, good Lord.
21 years
I
pro.
believe that Joe Hendry could kick the ever-loving shit out of Zack Sabre Jr.
Number 14, Jim, Oba Femi.
Do you think Zack Sabre Jr. glows in the dark? When you turn the bedroom light off, is he still glowing? What part of him you can see above the blankets?
It says here he's been a pro for 21 years, and I've seen him, going back at least 15 years or so. And I remember thinking he was really skinny then. He's put on no weight. He's still exactly the same as he was then, which is why he's not a star in America.
Which is why he's exactly the same as he was then.
Number 14, Oba Femi.
Oba Femi, you got that out real quick.
Oba Femi. There's no way to really extend a name like that.
Oba Femi. Yeah. Now they got to have the NXT guy. It's just, again, no disrespect to some of these people, but he's not the 14th best wrestler in the fucking world.
At number 15, CM Punk.
And one of the 4 or 5 biggest box office attractions in the business comes in at, what was it, 14 or 15?
He is number 15, and he's 19 years 15. Pro, not ranked last year.
Can you make a case that fucking Oba Femi is a better wrestler than CM Punk, or that Horky Goto is a better wrestler than Seth Rollins or anybody that he was above? Even going by their standards, not talking about who draws money, but just who the kayfabe fan would enjoy. What the fuck is going on here?
Well, Jim, at number 16, Bandito, the most wanted.
By who?
That's his nickname. El Mas Buscado, the most wanted.
He couldn't get arrested on the street. Nobody knows who the fuck he is. Well, that's why, and he wears a mask.
At number 7.
But if you screamed, if you went down to Main Street, USA, and you screamed, Randy Orton, few people would turn around and go, where? Whereas if you screamed Bandito, somebody else would scream Frito.
Gym number 17. I encourage everyone, don't go downtown yelling out Bandito.
What about Frito?
At number 17, Konosuke Takeshita from the Don Callis family.
All right. Which is getting bigger all the time. Is Don Callis a deadbeat dad? Could he support all them children? He's got like 10 of them now.
Well, we'll talk about that ridiculous stable when we get to Dynamite. Number 18, Damian Priest from the Bronx.
Wow, from the past. Remember when we thought he had potential? And it ain't materialized, has it? And he's now past 40 from what I saw on the interwebs the other day.
21 years pro.
Yeah, no.
Well, Jim, with 4 years pro, we have Trick Williams, number 19.
Well, the jury is still out on the trickster because he's only been a pro for 4 years. So we'll see how he develops in the future. But I'm again, they're just bopping back and forth between the main promotions so as not to offend anybody too badly at this point.
Number 20, Jacob Fatu, the Samoan werewolf.
Geez, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jacob, we couldn't put you any higher on the list. We've got Obafemi, we've got Trick, we got Gorky. We just don't have any room for Jesus Christ. This guy's not top 10. Even if you're not talking, sure he hasn't been in a position to draw at the box office on a regular basis if we're dealing with box office. And if we're not dealing with box office, he's torn the house down on all of his shit until he had to face his great value clone and Solo. But otherwise than that, boom goes Dynamite. But he's number 20. Okay.
Followed by number 21, Nick Nemeth.
What? What?
Number 21, Nick Nemeth.
Oh, I forgot he was using that name again. I was like, what are they watching 2004 OVW tapes? Yeah. No. No.
He apparently held 2 world championships simultaneously in AAA and TNA early in this evaluation period.
Well, seems like they should have evaluated again after the antibiotics had had time to work. No, I mean, he's a great worker, but he's not the 21st biggest star in wrestling over the last year.
At number 22, LA Knight. Catchphrase, yeah.
Yeah. He might be number 22 for real. I haven't got a list of all of the people that really ought to be above him, but he should rank right up there in the top 25.
At number 23, Mascara Dorada. Second generation luchador, a spectacular.
It's all right. Yeah.
At number 24, Jim, Braun Breaker from The Vision.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Wild-eyed Paul Heyman guy.
Braun, we know you're going to be in the main event of the next 10 WrestleManias, but we don't have room because Masquerita Dorito is, in your way. The fuck?
At number 25, Jim, Masha Slamovich. It's not Marsha. Who knew?
What?
Masha.
It's not Marsha.
No, it's Masha. Masha.
Is she Russian?
Hometown Moscow, Russia.
Ah.
Remains the sport's most prolific intergender competitor, regularly taking on and beating top male performers. Boy, this is a poorly
Oh my
one.
God!
This is a poorly timed one. Taking on and beating top male wrestlers on the indies.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry.
I hate to laugh.
Okay, we're just gonna stop the show right now, and that was her gimmick in wrestling, and she was drawing art from life, is what we now apparently are being led to believe here by this thing here.
I believe she has been suspended I hope I'm getting this right. Suspended from TNA, as it turns out, for alleged domestic abuse against her partner.
She was beating up her boyfriend is what she was doing.
Sonata. He's an
Say it in
independent
English.
wrestler. Yeah, that's what it was happening.
Well, but
Allegedly.
I've seen a picture of him. Good Lord Christ on a cracker. If he's a wrestler, I guess everybody can be one these days. But yes, and he didn't stooge, but he didn't deny it either. He admitted it. But apparently a friend of his is what stooged it. But he said, I just hope she can get the help she needs. Why do we have to hear about everybody's goddamn personal issues anymore to begin with? And
well, Jim, number 26.
Oh no, 25. There's 500 of these motherfuckers. I thought we were like hitting the fucking 25. We've got a grip on it now, don't we?
We're gonna get through 30 and then we'll take a quick glimpse through the rest. Number 26 is Ozawa. 3 years pro. He's from Team 2000X. Relative newcomer to the sport, makes an impressive PWI 500 debut on the strength of an impressive 6-month run with Noah's GHC Heavyweight Championship.
I thought they outlawed GHC. You can't buy it anymore because people were overdosing on it.
Well, we may have to see him if he's this impressive. 3 years pro. Number 27, Tatsuya Naito.
Oh,
we've seen him before. Number 28, Mark Briscoe. At number 29, El Hijo del Vikingo.
They're just all over the place. They'll stick Mark Briscoe in the middle of 2 or 3 people that nobody's ever heard of.
Followed by number 30, MJF.
Oh, good Lord. Geez, talk about kicking a man when he's down already. Yes, his booking was the shits, but they've put 7 people that nobody's ever heard of outside their immediate family on the list and made MJF number 30. I forgot about him even. We were so far down. They really must want to mollify or mollycoddle the childish minds over in AEW with the high rankings that they got. They figure MJF's an actual semi-adult. Maybe he won't be too pissed at us.
Again, at what point is this based on anything in reality? And another point, it's some sort of advocacy for wrestlers that people personally like. Number 31, Yoda Tsuji, nicknamed Gene Blast from New Japan. Number 32, Randy Orton, son of Cowboy Bob Orton.
Nicknamed DNA Splooge.
Number 33, Kyle Fletcher, signature move Brainbuster. Number 34, Moose.
Nicknamed the Sploogee.
34, Moose from TNA Wrestling. At number 35, Gabe Kidd. At number 36, Luke Jacobs from Manchester, UK. I have no idea who that is. From Progress and Rev Pro. Watch out for his lariat. We'll move on. 37, Mike Santana. 38, Jun Saito. Number 39, El Desperado.
Who's Jun Saito and how did she get on this list?
It is a man, native of Japan's Miyagi Prefecture, reached zenith of achievement. Was this written by someone in Japan? In his own promotion, defeating Davey Boy Smith Jr. for All Japan's Triple Crown. Reigned for the rest of the evaluation period, earned 10 points in the championship Carnival Block A contention.
Oh, well, there you did it by itself.
At number 39, El Desperado. At number 40, Marcus Mathers, Philly's finest. 41, Ricochet. He's a high flyer.
Wait a minute. I thought Marcus Mathers was Eminem.
That's Marshall Mathers, obviously, who this person you would guess would have stolen the last
Now
name
they're
from.
the indie guys that are ripping off a rapper from 25 years ago, getting the top 50. Is this what the business has become?
Well, he is a WWE ID prospect under Beyond Wrestling, I guess this is. He also held the Dreamway Alternative Championship for 252 days. And he dropped the ETU New Jersey title to Mike Santana. There are all sorts of titles I've never heard.
You know what? When I was 17, I was the Kentucky and a championship wrestling champion for about 14 days or so.
At number 41, Jim, as I said before, Ricochet. At number 42, Effie. Entrance theme, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Number 43, Ethan Page, All Ego. At number 44, Tom Latimer, NWA. I think he's the world champion. Yeah, it says here, world champion, NWA.
Okay, yeah, well, nice to check in, NWA, with your world champion at number 47.
45, Penta. 46, Drew McIntyre. 47, Javon.
Oh, come on.
Javon
Drew
Evans.
McIntyre is below Fernum and Snavitz.
Number 47, Javon Evans. Number 48, Dominic Mysterio. Number 49, Matt Riddle. Number 50, Mance Warner. This is all over the page. Number 51, Steve Macklin.
All right, you're hooked on this now. We got to draw the line somewhere.
Who's this? Number 52, one called Manders.
What?
The number one called Manders. One called Manders is number 52. Followed by Leon Slater at 53 and Chris Jericho at 54. Followed by Adam Cole at 55. Come on, this whole list is fucking crazy.
Before Jericho. How the mighty have fallen to put the boots to the guy when he's down.
Alberto El Patron is 66. I'm scrolling down. Neon, 68 is Neon. At number 76, Speedball Mike Bailey. Followed by Tomohiro Ishii, Nick Wayne, and at number 79, AJ Styles.
Jesus.
Followed by Daniel Garcia. Darby Allin's 83. Solo Sikoa, 89. Let me go to the bottom and see if there's any names that just stand out from the 400 range. This is a long-ass list. Filled. We didn't even get to 100 when we got the people we've never seen or heard.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is to make a list of 500 legitimate professional wrestlers in this day and age, it's almost impossible to get even to, I would think at the end, and I'm sure you'll let us know, that nobody's ever heard of any of these people past a local, indie or whatever.
Tell me if you've ever heard of any of these names. Number 355 is Show. S-H-O, Show. His affiliation is with the House of Torture. What about 356, Jim? Do you know Lou Nixon?
Lou Nixon.
Lou Nixon.
He actually, yes, Lou Doorknob Nixon. He was a heck of a guy. No, I don't know who Lou Nixon was. There was a Doorknob Nixon one time, I think worked for Bruiser, but.
What about 357, Hector Invictus?
I've never viewed Victus.
359, Anita Vaughn. Anita Vaughn.
Well, now that's a girl, Anita.
I would think so.
Like Anita Bryant. So there are girls on this list.
Number 360, Hoodfoot. Whoever that may be.
With his manager, James Brown. Get on the Hoodfoot.
Who the hell is this? 361 Hayabusa. 1 year pro. There's a new Hayabusa?
I was going to say, that'd be a little hard to do there, wouldn't it? But
yeah, I don't know who that is.
They took over. Well, go to the end. Who's at the end? If these big stars are in the threes.
I'm looking at some of the names here. Otis Koger, Lavanuel, Dylan McQueen, Andino, Jeremiah Plunkett, Alfonso Gonzalez, Dark Sheik. QT Marshall, I know that name. Kylie Ray, we just saw that she's taking time off because she's pregnant. Hayata, Billy Starks. Well, they do have girls on the list all over the place.
Well, then they're all sexist because there weren't any girls in the top 50.
All right, here are the final bunch here. At 484, Declan Grant. Followed by Tommy Vendetta at 485. At 486, 23 years pro, Dan Shoko Dieno. At 487, Tommy Dreamer. At 488, Shino. Followed by, at 489, Horace.
Horace?
Horace.
And Tommy Dreamer just randomly shows up in this list of generic names.
Shane Malice, 19 years pro, number 490, followed by TJ Sykes, and then a 492, our old friend, Crowbar, trained by Iron Mike Sharp, down in Brick, I think. 493.
But I understand, okay, Crowbar, Devon Storm for the uninitiated. Yes, he's been a pro for 20-something years, and we've heard of him. How are these other people pros for 20 years, supposedly, and you've never heard these names or even seen some of them in print?
You want to feel old? Crowbar, 33 years pro.
Well, I already felt old, and yeah.
Wow. Number 493, 3 years pro, Satnam Singh. Whatever happened to him?
Good God. It seems like he'd be hard to hide.
Followed by LSG. Followed by Milo Mira. Followed by Chris Nasty. Followed by RPD. 498 is Eel O'Neill. Eel O'Neill. Followed by Jeffrey John. The Babushka Baron. And finally, at number 500, Serial Man, 15 years pro, and it appears from the picture here, it is a wrestler whose mask is a fake box of cereal, and he's also holding a box of, looks like Fruity Pebbles. So this is the list.
See, why can't it... I don't make the editorial decisions for the magazine, but why can't they just come to grips with or admit to people or just change it and don't even say anything about it and ignore it that you can't list 500 real pro wrestlers anymore and do the PWI 250, which sounds like it would be padded, but at least it might be somewhat easier and less silly, because when you get to that point, aren't you just wasting space that you could actually put something in there that the folks would buy? That's a question.
Yeah, I just wonder how many fans there are that actually would know a great deal of these. Like when I used to get the early editions of this, I think it started in 91. So let's say 91, 92, 93, 94. I knew a good amount, like into the hundreds of those. There were still indie guys you'd never heard of or anything, but you knew a lot of these people.
There were a lot of pro wrestlers, though, at that point in time.
Yeah. That's true. Well.
Yeah. Well, and there still is, if they went through the entire roster, including NXT, and just listed all the names as we've talked about in the past, you'd get hundreds of people, but that doesn't mean that anybody's ever heard of them either.
At number 400, Cappuccino Jones.
Oh, come on.
Cappuccino Jones, he's with WWE ID, apparently. 3 years pro. He's a member of Adrenaline Drip.
Wait a minute. I had a tag team named Adrenaline in OVW, but not Adrenaline Drip. Adrenaline was kind of a cool name for my babyface tag team that were full of adrenaline, and they were just popular as all shit, but I wouldn't have named anybody a Drip.
Hayata's here at 383. His affiliation is with the Passionate Rattels. So much of this is ridiculous, but I get a kick out of it.
Brian, you know what the problem is here?
Oh, which one?
I can tell you what the problem is here with the folks up at Pro Wrestling Illustrated. They're not trying to just relieve stress and sleep better and maintain an overall physical and mental sense of well-being. They're on some kind of psychotropic, psychoactive, hallucinogenic, chemically induced, made under the bathroom sink, holy shit, is this permanent kind of stuff.
Well, I don't think we should say that or can say that. I know Brian Solomon's not. He's a good guy.
I just did say it.
Well, we shouldn't say it. Of
See,
course.
Solomon looks like a narc on the outside, but he may be a goddamn heavy-duty fucking acid head. We don't know. Who knows about people behind closed doors anymore, Brian? Can you vouch for anybody anymore?
I'm going to vouch for Brian Solomon. That's one person I feel safe vouching for, yeah.
You don't think he's on hallucinogenics?
I'd be over there hanging out.
Mushrooms?
If he had mushrooms, I'd be talking to him right now.
Well, he did have fungus in his toes.
All right,
nevertheless,
where are we going exactly?
I'm talking about all these heavy-duty drugs that the people at Pro Wrestling Illustrated are on to make this list up. But that's not that. You shouldn't be doing stuff like that, folks. Don't take the brown acid. What you need to be doing is concentrating on helping yourself feel better, taking away stress and discomfort, a nice little relaxation, some good sleep. You'll wake up feeling mentally refreshed with no hangovers. The Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies. That's what you're going for here. You're not going to come up with a list like they do at Pro Wrestling Illustrated because that requires you to take some kind of mind-altering substances that send you into the fifth dimension, into a kaleidoscope of no return. My God, don't go into the light. But you can just take some of these CBD gummies formulated to work with your body, not against it, using only the best part of the hemp plant, the flower. It's a purty flower. For the purest and most potent CBD, they help relieve the discomfort and stress and sleeplessness that comes with realizing that we're all doomed to a catastrophic end. But you can put that off for at least a little while by using these third-party lab-tested USDA organic safety and purity insured CBD gummies from cornbreadhemp.com right here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
So do you want to take the fucking acid brewed in a bathtub in a fucking warehouse down on San Leandro Street? Or do you want to come to the Derby City to taste some of our flour, baby? Well, all you got to do right now.
They will send it to people. You don't have to come to Louisville to check out the fine products.
Well, it's cheaper if you come pick it up in person. You can go to cornbreadhemp.com and you can order it and just put it in the pickup line. And they got a drive-through. And then you just fucking... But don't take the gummies until you get out of the drive-through line because it slows down the goddamn procedure. People don't want to leave.
There's no drive-through, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do this the old-fashioned way.
You're not in Louisville. You don't know what's going on down here.
We're going to do this the old-fashioned way with a wonderful promo code, but let's get there first.
Yes, well, the promo code, of course, is JCE, but that's only if you want to save money, Brian. You don't need the program. The promo code of JCE. That's JCE. You don't need that at all if you don't want to save money. You want to pay regular price, just go to cornbreadhemp.com. But if you want to save 30% on your first order, that's where you need the code JCE. cornbreadhemp.com/JCE and use the code JCE at checkout. You get 30% off Cornbread Hemp CBD gummies that are, again, full spectrum CBD gummies. They got watermelon, they got berry, they got peach, but they also, you know what they got for you? Bliss, pure, unadulterated joy, floating off into the atmosphere on a sea of bad organ music. Instead of crashing down to the ground and the spiders are coming. Yeah, that's Pro Wrestling Illustrated. We don't want that. We want cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. 30% off your first order.
Yeah. All right, that one's going to have a lot of feedback. Let's turn that off. We are here in the future, Jim, in the future.
Yeah.
For future wrestling talk.
Sounded like Granny's magic musical saw.
Oh, that was kind of what I was going for. Thank you.
Well, you've got a musical saw setting on the Organtron there. The Orgasmatron.
The album, The Musical Saw, will be out on Arcadian Vanguard Records later this year. Stay tuned for more information. We may do a bundle with the new Jim Cornette book. We haven't decided yet. But Jim, here we are in the future.
What's the cover picture going to look like of Granny's musical saw? Is she going to be bowing it on the porch?
Well, no, we're not using Granny in the title. We're kind of getting away from the whole Granny thing. We're just focusing on musical saw.
Well, it's Granny's musical saw, though.
No, that's not. Again, that may be your idea.
You're saying Granny isn't marketable?
I'm saying in this context, I don't think Granny is marketable for the avant-garde drone music that we will be producing.
I don't know. You those fucking nonagenarians, they got some piss and vinegar in them. All right. Yeah. You know what we need to do before we go on to the climactic portion of the program with blowing our nose with dynamite is check in basically on what they're doing at the big event. They're just down the road in Australia coming up this coming weekend. The WWE, when do they grace the United States' presence with a big event again?
When one of the local municipalities will pay them as much money as they want.
So don't fill the potholes, pay the WWE to come do a show. But anyway, they're going to be in Australia, Brian, and are they trying to soften the negative stigma behind the crown jewel show title by putting it somewhere else besides Saudi Arabia, since now they get WrestleMania?
Yeah, it's interesting because it was an event that we thought was created specifically for Saudi Arabia. Last year, Cody defeated Gunther for the Crown Jewel Championship, a championship he wasn't allowed to leave the country with. So we figured it was kind of the Saudi event. Now it's in Perth, Australia. I mean, the big test will be next year. Will it be in Columbus, Ohio? I don't know if Crown Jewel works there, but it's now just part of the traveling package that is, give us your money, WWE.
They want your jewels. They want your family jewels to see the crown jewel. What does the King of Australia have to? Do they have crown jewels in Australia, the King and Queen, or do they?
Well, I don't think they have a king.
Do they have more like sheep horn on their? No, there's crowns. There is no. Or is that New Zealand?
There is no king.
They got a lot of sheep down there.
Yeah, I don't think there's a king or queen in Australia or New Zealand.
What about sheep?
Unless you count Paul Hogan. I don't know. They have plenty of sheep, from what I understand.
Well, I'm trying to figure, is it which one? Is it Australia, New Zealand, or both that has all the sheep? Because the sheep herders.
We're from New Zealand.
New Zealand sheep herders. Maybe Australia doesn't have as many sheep as we think. That's why some of the men are highly frustrated.
In the heyday of Australian wrestling, were the New Zealanders considered like outsiders or automatic heels, or were they accepted immediately as one of our own because they're our neighbor right over here?
Well, Brian, I don't know that question has ever come up to me before, and I wasn't there during the heyday of Australian wrestling, so I can't comment on the race relations amongst the different factions of down there in warring fucking Australia.
You know, just recently the photo was going around on Facebook. I don't know if you would have seen it on Twitter. You may have seen it before, of Luke Williams in his early days with his beautiful gimmick, having his hair.
Yes.
Looks like another person.
But anyway, Luke and Butch, I loved them. So, are Luke and Butch on this show? It might be more entertaining coming up, but I'm afraid they're not.
I'm afraid Butch passed away several years ago.
Well, I realize that's one of the reasons why they're not on the show.
But Rip Morgan said he's available and ready to go.
God damn it, almost spit on
the nephew of Butch Miller, Rip Morgan. But Jim, you brought it up, Crown Jewel Perth, Saturday, October 11th, 7:30 p.m. local, 8 a.m. on the East Coast, 5 a.m. on the West Coast. What do you think of that before any? Again, I know that you don't want to just, like SummerSlam 92 in Wembley didn't air live here. We didn't know the results. It was a different era. There wasn't a vibrant internet. So it aired several hours after it took place. It was light there when it was pitch black here. What do you think, though, about the idea of airing stuff live and it's the middle of the night, middle of the morning? It's like a New Japan kind of thing.
Well, I guess everybody can get the results instantly, but at the same time, you can do like the Seinfeld episode where he answers the phone, I'm taping the game, don't tell me what the result is, or whatever, and try to stay away from it and watch it at a convenient time of the day because there is no bell time is 8 p.m. anymore. With the streaming, you can watch whenever the fuck you want and at DVR, et cetera, et cetera. That's why the whole concept of a big show's gone to hell. Back in my day, they had faces. But it just the idea of, if it's not an immediate thing where you have to watch it and it's on at 8 o'clock and on Saturday morning and you got, put kids in their treehouse or whatever the fucking normal people do on goddamn Saturday. I don't know. Do you put children in the treehouse or do they go there on their own?
I think they climb up to the treehouse on their own.
Well, you got to kick them out of the house first. Chase them with a stick. It helps. But
that wouldn't be the thing to do.
But
well,
point being, it's easier to just get busy with Saturday and not watch the thing, isn't it? Even if you were planning on it, unless you're, again, they're preaching to the base. The whole wrestling industry is preaching to the base now because they don't get the masses anymore. Some of their fans are massive, but they don't get the masses.
You see, if you go out the night before or just you're waiting until the end of the week because you've been getting very little sleep during the week for work or school, whatever it is, if you're waiting until Friday night to get a great night's sleep, are you going to want to wake up early to see it? I mean, I almost feel like this would be a better plan for Tony Khan because he does 10-hour shows. That way he could start at 8 a.m. on the East Coast, and by the time like 1 o'clock you want to check out what's going on, there's still plenty to go.
And he'll be done by dark.
That's right. That's right.
But,
it's like a telethon.
I don't. Yeah. You know what? Would it be better if he just said at the start of the show, we're going to have matches until you pay us a certain amount to stop, and then raise more money through crowdfunding with people sending in contributions. Please end it. Please end it.
You should do it. The Thanks Guys telethon.
But nevertheless, they're having this show, and we are going to try now to tell the people what's on the show and how excited we are about the show that these matches are taking place on, allegedly.
Yeah, we're going to try to. This show is coming up less than a week as we release this show here. If I go to the official WWE website, there's a page. I mean, the event is Crown Jewel Perth. They don't actually list any matches. They give you, first thing on the page is win a trip to the Survivor Series War Games. Enter now. It's a Minute Maid contest with Cody Rhodes there. And then right under that, it says on sale now, 2-day combo tickets for WrestleMania 42. Click here for tickets. And then under that is Crown Jewel Perth, a big image of several superstars. Has the date, buy tickets, and also a click to, or a link to buy priority pass. And then it says featured superstars, and it shows Cena, AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes, Rollins, and Stephanie Vaquer. And then it's highlights of SmackDown and Raw leading up to it. No matches listed. That's crazy.
On their own website.
Yeah, I mean, this is their website, and this is the official page for the event. There's no matches. What happens if I click for tickets here? All right, we'll come back to this. Let me go to Wikipedia.
Wikipedia will have the lowdown if they won't tell us.
All right, Wikipedia has 4 matches listed. I mean, the last pay-per-view we saw was, 5 matches, right?
Yeah, but, maybe they think they're giving people too much. Because it is 8 o'clock in the morning.
And maybe we could think of things they may add. Let's go through what's officially a match as of now, according to Wikipedia. In a tag team match, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky versus the Kabuki Warriors.
If the television segment, as we will phrase it, that we talked about previously is any indication of what, these other 3 that are the kids that are in with Rhea are going to be contributing to this thing, I'd love to see her in and out of this thing as quickly as possible. Because that was just stinky bad.
I guarantee you this match will be many times better than that awful segment with awful acting on Raw.
Well,
that went 20 minutes. It probably won't go as long as that segment either, if I had to guess.
Why do we care about the match after it reminds us of the stinkiest promo to build a match that's ever been done?
Well, let's see what you think of the rest of this card as of this very moment. In a singles match, John Cena versus AJ Styles.
And I think I agree with this one because obviously Cena wants to do it first of all. Or, you know, AJ was one of the people on his list that he'd like to work with, whatever, but also it's a way for them to relive their history. It's John's probably not going to get hurt working with AJ. And at the same time, this is not it's a big show in name only, right? Again, because they're in Australia and etc. But this isn't like they're giving away a WrestleMania main event. And, you know, do they even have the term B show anymore? Are they all B shows? But you know what I'm saying.
Feels like there's more televised B shows now than ever before.
Well, that's because they're busy bees. They've got more shows than, you know, all these towns that they're willing to hold hostage for ransom to, you know, come and grace with their beneficence. They're just lined up.
Now, I thought they were potentially building up Jacob Fatu versus Drew McIntyre for this card, but it's not listed amongst the matches here, and it certainly isn't on the WWE website. So we'll see what happens.
It would be a bonus if they had it.
Well,
that would be nice.
Yeah, otherwise, you have 4 matches and 3 hours of commercials. Doesn't sound very pleasant. For the WWE Women's Crown Jewel Championship, the Raw Women's Champion, Stephanie Vaquer, versus Tiffany Stratton, the SmackDown Women's Champion.
Okay, well, I'm going to watch every single solitary second of this son of a bitch, just because I don't want you to think that I'm not giving Stephanie her proper due or respect or whatever, and this probably ain't going to be bad. And once again, it's for another miscellaneous women's championship, but they'll love it over there down under Captain Roger.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who they put over there. It'll also be interesting, are they allowed to leave the country with the championship? Now that this event's not in Saudi Arabia, who owns... First of all, did they have to make a new Crown Jewel Championship belt? And secondly, who owns it?
Well, and that's a good point. And if they could probably get something out of Australia easier than they can get it out of Saudi Arabia. So now, you know, it'll be on eBay next week.
Unless you cut it up with a bone saw and put it in little bags.
Ho!
Jim, final match listed here for the WWE Crown Jewel Championship. The SmackDown Undisputed WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes, who was last year's winner of the Crown Jewel Championship against Gunther, versus the Raw World's Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins.
With only the Crown Jewel title on the line. Correct?
That is correct. Only the Crown Jewel Championship and maybe the championship with the most interference in wrestling. We'll see what happens if we had to guess.
I mean, this one, boy, you'd think Seth would have to win something sooner or later, but I don't know that I see it here. But and they don't want to start a riot down in Australia either. Those people they carry knives. I don't know.
Boomerangs.
Huh?
Wouldn't you be more afraid of a boomerang than a knife?
Well, no, because once it comes back to him, it comes back to the guy that did it, so you could catch him easier. So they could just stick you with a knife and walk off and leave it in you. Think about that.
I hadn't thought about that. You may be right.
Yeah, there you go. See, you never hear on the news about a boomerang killer getting away with it. The shit always comes right back to him.
I've never even seen anyone successfully use a boomerang in person my entire life.
Well, you don't spend enough time down in Australia.
You've seen Australian wrestlers.
Costello.
Yeah, you saw Al Costello. You've seen Australian wrestlers. Have you ever seen anyone actually throw a boomerang and have it returned to them?
Well, not in a wrestling situation.
They were throwing boomerangs into the crowd. Nothing ever came back.
Well, those were gimmick boomerangs. They're not the magic fucking boomerangs, see? Some of them were just cardboard. And Al Costello, when he'd hit the guy over the head with his wooden boomerang, well, he didn't have enough room to throw it because he was right next to the guy. So he just hit him with it because it was easier. But now out in the outback, And then Al Costello would fling that thing and it'd go and it'd come right back. From what I've heard and been told. He wouldn't tell a lie.
It's kind of upsetting. Not upsetting, that's not the right word, but it just seems almost like a waste or a disappointment. There have been elements in the Cody Rollins build, and those elements don't include the length of the segments or the singing of the fans or any of the superfluous shit. But the whole argument, the breaking apart of these guys that were friends leading into Cody, or at least Seth Rollins was the shield to help Cody get the title from Roman Reigns a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Feels like more could have been done for this to be a bigger thing as opposed to all of this to build up this match, for a championship, not the one either of them hold, or a championship that'll be defended anywhere ever. I don't know, it just seems almost like a waste of the build for this. Like they could have used that. They could have used that for something bigger, long-term. There's more to be done, I guess. It seems like.
I have a feeling they're going to do this match again. This isn't the last we've seen of it. They'll probably take another swing at it later.
You think they'll unify the belts again? You think they'll ever unify the belts again?
I don't know, because there is the reason why they did it before is so that they could tour more efficiently with having two touring groups, but they don't tour anymore as much as just go, as we said, to the highest bidder and the big shows and TV. It probably would be a benefit, but I don't think they will, just because I think they're like Tony. They like all the belts. They think their fans like all these belts, and then they can use the belts to fight the other belts. Then we don't need the wrestlers anymore. Yeah.
Well, Jim, that's it. Those are the only matches listed on Wikipedia, not even on the official WWE page for the upcoming Crown Jewel pay-per-view event this Saturday, 8 a.m. East Coast.
Well, at least if there's only 4 matches, we'll be able to get over to Wild Eggs for brunch before they close.
Well, speaking of wild eggs, Jim.
Oh, yes. How about goose eggs?
Wild goose eggs, yes.
Wild goose eggs. It was the 6th anniversary episode of AEW Dynamite on Wednesday night, October the 1st, and they were in Hollywood, Florida. Hollywood, Florida. The other Hollywood. Like it's the other white meat. And where they are at their 6th anniversary is they're back where they started from. In that time, they have gotten a number of stars or people who are over on as main event level people to their fan base, especially, and they've either run them off or crippled them. And we are back with the Cucamonga kids and their friends from the trampoline in the backyard as the primary, episodic characters of this thing, mixed with, Moxley's bunch that's dry and drab and worn out. So I think they've kind of come full circle. Only they lost half of their riders along the way. But they didn't really do anything for the 6th anniversary different to what they've been doing, because it all looks the same. Am I exaggerating this?
Well, no, they tried to make it a big deal that it's the 6th anniversary, and they presented a lackluster lineup, and it didn't look great. I almost feel like they should have just done it at Daly's place. It's not the biggest place, and it doesn't look the best, but it looked better than whatever building they were in here. And they even shot it. At some point, they switched the camera so you can kind of see the other side. It looked better on the side they weren't showing. They had the hard cam kind of where the entranceway was, and it just didn't look good. The building looked like shit, and it didn't feel like a special show. And if you stop and think about it, we've said it with the return of Orange Cassidy and Jurassic Express. They're doubling down on the things that, for their crowd, worked 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago. And that crowd has dissipated. Less people are enthusiastic or excited by AEW's product. They have less star power than ever before. the stars they do have, in a lot of cases, are the same people they had, again, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and the business just isn't there. We take their word that they get these great pay-per-view numbers, and a lot of that's just taking their word for it. We really don't know. The ratings we'll talk about a little bit later, but sometimes you can watch WWE and you could say, I'm not particularly a fan of this television show here today. I don't like some of the wrestlers being pushed. I think some stuff goes too long, whatever it is. But you see that, and you see that there's a excited fan base paying for these tickets and seemingly happy to be there and do these things. And then you see AEW. A few years ago, they were drawing great crowds. They're not drawing great crowds for any TV shows ever, anywhere. Maybe England. And there's no energy there. There's no star power. It's like a 6-year anniversary. Again, 6 years of Tony Khan as the booker. That's not something to celebrate. The delusion of pretending that Tony's good at this and that Tony somehow will be getting better with age. It's ridiculous. This was not a special 6th anniversary show, it didn't feel like to me.
Well, I mean, even just as a television program, because 6th anniversary is like, what anniversary is that? Cardboard? Coffee grounds? But just do a good TV show. It's the same shit. People just randomly come and go in the never-endingness. And that's another thing people talk about. Well, Cornette just blows right past the WWE stuff, but he recounts every minute AEW detail. No, I don't. I don't watch the matches anymore on either of these fucking programs unless it's Braun Breaker or somebody really fucking fabulous. But in the WWE, you can tell people what happened. Well, so-and-so had a match, and so-and-so, boom, they went back and forth. He won with his finish. Or the so-and-so went back and forth and won with his finish, and then the guy got mad and beat him up after. It makes sense, but it don't take too long to fucking tell. With this, people keep coming out and doing things that leads to this and that, and this segment never ends. And by the time they get to the end of it, people involved weren't even there at the start of the fucking thing. They've transitioned to completely different. It doesn't make mostly sense. But it takes a while to tell what the fuck is going on. These are complete polar opposites. And every excess that AEW is doing, the people that still are coming live, they like that kind of thing. Sometimes they're standing there. But people watching on television, how long is it before... Good God, it all blurs together. What are we watching?
The other thing, too, is AEW is having a popularity and a creative and everything, just a decline. And again, they'll say, well, the pay-per-view numbers are great. A, prove it. B, it doesn't change anything. These TV shows are bad. What's going to affect it is going to be WWE helping TNA get a television deal. Because right now, I would argue that NXT is hotter than AEW. You hear more people buzzing about things in NXT. More people get mad at you for not watching NXT than they do for not watching something in AEW. And you see more and more of that from TNA, who again is under the thumb of WWE, but they're still, as of now, technically an independent outfit. But WWE's helping them for a reason. Industry domination. They're shutting the doors around AEW, so AEW is not going to have options. And while all that's happening, AEW, again, presenting a 6th anniversary show that is so uninspired. Everything about it, especially the Death Rider shit at the end, just the slow-moving 4 horsemen. It's not very promising. I mean, the only thing they have going for them is that Tony can fund this thing forever. Tony can just have fun and games forever with his dad's money, but it doesn't change reality. And, again, we've always said the other sad thing is Tony's never going to replace himself as Booker. This whole thing exists so Tony can be what he's always wanted to be, despite not being very good at it. But even if you did replace him, there's no one there to replace him with. It's just, I don't see much of a positive future for AEW. I really don't. It'll exist, but how is it going to possibly get better? Do you think year 7 of Tony's booking run will be better? Do you think year 8 of Tony's booking run will be better? Do you think another year of Excalibur and Tony Schiavone and Taz and now Danielson giggling and laughing when shit happens will be better or worse? It's not a very promising thing. So it's celebrating 6 years, and it's commendable 6 years on the air, but it's not a good show. People pretending it's a good show are just wrong.
But tell us how you really feel.
I feel it's a disappointment. You know, the same thing you kind of said at the beginning. It's a lost opportunity, and it's been 6 years of lost opportunity.
And to be quite honest, it's the last one that, I'll see in my lifetime. If anybody take a swing at it, and it might be the last one ever, because the longer that it hangs on, the more that it prevents any other alternative to the TKO empire from ever happening to begin with. But
I mean, it's sad to say, but the best case next scenario, just due to the changing media landscape, and this isn't a positive option, but the next best thing might be, or the next chance might be, one of these actual networks saying, hey, we need a wrestling company. We need wrestling content. We don't want to deal with the Tony Khans or the TKOs trying to hold us up. Let's just find some wrestling people and create a show. And it won't last, and it'll flame out. But other than that, you have to count on a billionaire wanting to put up the money, and then where are they going to air it? Where's it going to live? So there's a lot of problems with this. And again, 6 years of missed opportunity from AEW, no growth from AEW, doubling down on all the things that haven't worked. But hey, they've made wrestlers rich.
Well, let's talk about those rich wrestlers, because a couple of them went broke. That's how they opened their show. The 6th anniversary show opens with a pre-taped comedy bit with the Hardley Boys at a casino down there. They do their phony dialogue where Nick loves to be at the casino, so Matt's going to go off and arrange for their big entrance with all these bells and whistles, and he'll be back shortly. And Nick goes to the casino. They show him, this is not even a big budget fucking shoot. They showed him playing like video poker for 20 seconds and a couple other video machines or whatever. And then Maddie comes back, and Nick's mope-faced because he's lost all their money. And now they can't afford their big entrance. And by the time that this was all had evolved after their big billboard on the show and everything, we were almost 5 minutes in, and they dissolved to, there's Maddie and Nikki already standing in the ring with no music, with their long faces on again, and the graphic said the broke bucks. Who cares? Why do this? It's not even entertaining the people who are literally entertained by everything AEW does, because they're just standing there and looking at these two fucking mooches now. And it's not good material. It's not funny. It's not entertaining. It does nothing for the show or them. They just like to jack off and do what they consider funny. Neither one of these fucking clowns is the comedic mind of goddamn Laurel and Hardy. So then they have a 6-man tag with the Cucamonga Kids and Josh Alexander against Bandito, Burger King, and Kenny. Kenny can wrestle the 6-man tags, just not the real burdensome matches where he has to do 18 of his dives, or elsewise he feels like he's failed the world. So, Brian, did I miss anything when I skipped the kids getting to play for about 15 minutes and do all their tricks?
No, I think it was exactly what you probably thought it was. And it's exactly, in so many ways with that opening skit, and then, this 6-man match and Omega in the middle of the 6-man match. This is so many of the things that have hurt AEW were on display here on this show. The Young Bucks act, their comedy act, just their act, has never worked on a national stage. And that's one of the things that has plagued AEW from the very beginning. These idiots and their idiot friends convinced themselves that they were somehow making great content and people would want to see more of it on national TV, and the exact opposite happened. I don't know if there's ever been anyone in the history of Dynamite that has cost them viewers from one segment to the next more than the Young Bucks. People have rejected them. Yet here they are, an opening segment, again, not a big budget thing, probably shot by Brandon Cutler, but they gave it time. That's the valuable part, the real estate. They opened the show telling the audience, the clown show is here. And again, these guys are the highest paid tag team in history. These guys, EVPs. You mean to tell me the best way to use them and the best way to present them from the very beginning has been like this? I know they're now doing the broke bucks thing. They weren't always broke, but there's never been a thing that they've done that you could take seriously. Not one thing.
They clown through everything. They make it obvious by the way that they act or overact or not even acting that it's just all bullshit.
So yeah, congratulations on the crowds you drew in Ring of Honor in 2018. But here we are now, and the Bucks mean nothing. And then Omega's in this match, and he gets to work with his friends, and that's a benefit. And you have to wonder how many singles matches you'll see with him going forward. You look at him, and he does not look healthy.
Well,
look at his head. I know it's a weird thing to say, like his face, but look at his entire head compared to his head like 6 years ago. It looks like there's something going on, but we'll see.
Well, maybe it's because he keeps landing on it. That's the thing. You talk about the condition that Kenny's in. Here was the finish. Kenny nearly broke his own neck, giving Alexander a reverse Hurricane Rana, the stupidest move in wrestling. I don't know why anybody goes for it or cooperates with it, but he landed on his shoulder and head and neck sideways, clump, and the other guy just rolled right over. Then he gave him a power bomb. Then he gave him his shitty little knee lift while everybody else in the match was just on the floor. Then Bandito and Burger King roll in and stand and watch Kenny give Alexander another knee lift. And then Bandito did a flippy-doo German suplex to Alexander while Brody King just ran and dove out on the floor on the two flunkies, the Matt and Nick, that were just standing there in front of the desk. And then Kenny then gave Alexander the one-winged fairy. 1, 2, 3.
No surprise. If you had to guess who was going to eat the pin at the very beginning, you knew right away. Josh Alexander has never beat anybody.
Well, but I don't know how, because they just proved that he's the toughest guy in the fucking company. Not only did they hit him with 7 finishes in a row before anybody thought to even cover him, but it took the 3 baby faces working in concert together to beat him all by himself while his 2 partners were out on the floor. Who comes up with these fucking finishes? Oh, God damn it.
Well, that wasn't the end, obviously. There was a post-match where Kenny Omega had a special message for the faithful.
Well, that's what I was about to bring up, is for apparently absolutely no reason. These guys are partners, but suddenly Bandito and Brody King say, fuck it, we're done, we'll see you later. And they leave again. They go down the entranceway. And Kenny stays with the 3 heels in the goddamn ring. They've just fought. Now he's apparently has no issue with this. And the announcers are even asking if the fucking Kenny and the whatchamacallit will bury the hatchet, because they've had an issue before, whoever the fuck it was, which ones they had the issue with. But the point is, he stays with the 3 heels they've just fought, right? The Bucks, that's right. The Bucks and Kenny, are they going to bury the hatchet? Why would they do that now when they've just goddamn had a match? Why they just say, oh, well, shit, we've been wrong all along. We should have known this 15 minutes ago before we beat shit out of each other. So Josh Alexander super kicks Kenny while he was standing there staring at the Bucks, and Alexander beats the shit out of Kenny, and the Bucks are standing there like, well, what do you think we should do? But then music plays. And there's Jungle Jackoff and Dino Douche walking out again, smirking and walking and walking and smirking. They're not concerned about Kenny. Josh Alexander is still pummeling and gouging and choking Kenny in the corner while the Buckaroos are standing there staring at fucking their two little buddies. And then they get in and they bump the Bucks out in 10 seconds. But then they turn around and get their hands up and they never help Kenny at all. And Josh turns around and goes to them like, hey, I think we should fight now. And Jungle Jackoff gives Josh the knee lift. And then Kenny suddenly pops up to his feet after he's had the shit kicked out of him, fresh as a daisy, and gives Josh Alexander the begonia suplex. So now, for one thing, Josh, congratulations on being made of iron. You took 7 finishes from 3 guys before you could go down to defeat. Then you get up and you beat up one of those guys. And then he gets up and gives you another one of his finishes. And Josh Alexander rolled out. And then Kenny got up and was pissed at Jungle Jack, and they started arguing and shoving at each other because, as nobody recalls, remember like a year and a half ago, Jungle Jack sent Kenny to the hospital. He joins the long list of everybody in Cook County, Illinois, fucking half the goddamn retired steel workers in America. Everybody has sent Kenny to the hospital.
Yeah, but by the way, you said the main point. No one remembers that. Since that time, Jack Perry disappeared from TV for almost a year, and Omega's been out a bunch of times.
And the fucking Felcher just hospitalized Kenny.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that even. That just happened. I forgot about that.
Yes, but then Felcher immediately went into a fucking match with the masked Mexican midget, and then Kenny's in a 6-man tag here with these I don't know. But nevertheless, Jack and Kenny are arguing and shoving at each other, and then Jungle Jackoff just runs past Kenny and dives out of the ring, again on the fucking Buckaroos who were just standing on the floor. And then all 4 of them suddenly and with little effort just kind of play fight to the back and leave Kenny still standing in the ring. And this is where he has the heartfelt message. And he gave the wishy-washy, douchey, rah-rah speech in his milk-soppish delivery. He would have been perfect in the days of the ruffled shirt and the powdered wig with a little snuff box. He would have been perfect. And then the lights go out. And when the lights come back on, Brian, wouldn't you know who won the pony? It's our old friend Andre. He's back. He's gone. He's back. He's gone. He's back. And he leveled Kenny and beat him up. And I guess sent him to the hospital. Everybody else does. Why should he be left out? And then shook hands with Don Fallis and has become a member of the Don Fallis family, which now numbers more than the goddamn Gosselin kids.
It's the most inclusive heel group of all time.
And so that was we were 30 minutes into the show by the time that, and some of these people weren't even out until the 3rd wave. They'd had whole interruptions and brawls, and people fought off and everything by the time that the last part of it was over. I would have had to have wrote down. I'd have had to wrote it. Who was in the thing at the beginning? Because half an hour later, I can't remember.
Well, the big story here was the return of Andrade, being the latest person to beat up Kenny Omega. Had his hair out, had a hair color that we have not seen
his
before.
hair out.
Well, he didn't look the way we've typically seen Andrade look, I guess is the point. And
well, he had his hair long. He didn't have his hair out.
Well, it wasn't in a ponytail.
Bald-headed.
It was out.
If it was out, it'd be bald.
Well,
a lot of my hair's out.
Well, again, Andrade joins a heel stable. You always said he needs someone to talk for him. Promos are the single weakest thing about him. But now he's with a stable with a joke heel manager with 20 other people in the fuck. Rocky Romero was in that stable. I mean, come on. What is this?
And that's why I was laughing. He needs a manager. He needs a manager to speak for him and get him over. And again, I think we said earlier in this marathon broadcast that we're doing here, Don, whether he knows better or not, I'm surprised that the guy that I knew 25 years ago is just assing off on national television as hungry as he was to be a star in 1997 or whatever in the WWF. He's just taking this and just wiping his ass with it. He's overacting or comedy acting. He, for whatever reason, has now 10 people in his stable that he does almost nothing with. He sits at commentary instead of at ringside as a manager. He's ineffective when he interferes, and at the same time, he's obviously faking being a pussy rather than showing that he's actually a pussy. It's not worked in any phase of being a manager or a top heel main event stable group. And they just keep sticking people in it.
It almost would have been better to give Andrade Stokely because he doesn't have too many people. And maybe that's another way to try to use him in a single thing. I would almost rather have given him Sammy Guevara as a shit-talking heel manager / wrestler.
Boy, there you go.
Because at least there's something there that people will buzz about. Oh my God, he's with Sammy. But they bring out Andrade, who had an unremarkable run in AEW previously. Again, the highlight of that run was beating up Sammy Guevara in the back after being told, you better not do this. And then
I forgot. Boy, I guess maybe that's why they don't give him Sammy Guevara.
But that's what he was most famous for in AEW, that and seemingly time off. Whether it was something he requested or something that is part of the Tony Khan plan of just pay him and send him home. But apparently he left under good terms, went to the WWE, got a big buzz, I guess you could say, when he first debuted because he was like one of the first AEW guys, if not the first. Oh no, Cody was first. But he was one of the AEW guys to return, and that quickly went away. And he faded into the background on a show like SmackDown, which over the last couple of years has had more Latinos featured on it than ever before. He didn't stand out.
Well, he didn't stand out, but also apparently it's done him no favors that the story is that he is, and if he wants to sue them for putting this out there, then fine. But they said he's failed multiple wellness policy violations is what I'm trying to say.
Right, but I think wasn't one of those from his first run, and then one of them was from this most recent run?
Well, they don't announce them anymore, so we don't know what the fuck. But what I'm saying is, in a company that does tend to tolerate things more than what one would expect in some cases, they just don't give a shit about him. Not only did they say, you know what, whatever he did or whatever they think about him, not only did they say, you know what, fuck it, just not let him go. Don't even give him a 90-day, just be free. They didn't care whether he went back or not. That speaks something right there. If they're doing all these other things to try to hamstring AEW, but here's this guy, good luck. So he's been in AEW and it didn't make any difference. He was in WWE, it didn't make any difference. He had come from WWE originally where it made a little bit of difference, but now he's back where he didn't make any difference. And Tony has basically rewarded a guy that left on him before and then went and was unremarkable and was a somewhat of a disciplinary issue. Oh, but come back here. I'm sure everything will be fine. What the fuck?
This has divided AEW fans. There are AEW fans that were genuinely excited. I guess maybe because it's a fresh matchup for Kenny. I really don't know. I can't imagine how anyone could be excited about another heel being thrown in that fucking Callis stable. But there were fans that were generally, whether it was a surprise or not, excited for this. And then there were fans, and Dave Meltzer specifically, who were very upset about this, or at least didn't think this was a good move. Dave did a whole thing that we heard from a bunch of listeners about. Some of them sent over a clip where he went on his show.
He was very vehement from what I understand, that all the various reasons.
And he had said beforehand, before this happened, that he wouldn't have brought Andrade back. You have to say there were two Dave Meltzers with AEW. There's the Dave that texts with Tony when Tony's on his plane and he wants to know what Dave thinks. And then there's the Dave who doesn't like that Tony's not doing what he wants him to do.
Well, I was about to say they've entered that phase of the relationship. They've been married long enough now where, Dave is just resenting that his advice is not being adhered to like it once was.
Well, Jim, if you don't mind, I have a little bit of audio. It's only a minute and a half, but we'll break it up and discuss this. Tell me if you think it's fair or not. Here are Dave Meltzer's concerns or issues with Tony Khan bringing Andrade back on the 6th anniversary of Dynamite.
Andrade made his return.
AEW has enough talent they don't need. I see everyone celebrating. Oh my God, this is so great when all this. Andrade is a very good wrestler. He's coming off of a run that wasn't good in WWE. Then he was fired, over disciplinary reasons. He had lots of problems in AEW over disciplinary reasons. I always think, burn me once, learn a lesson. This was not a lesson learned, and I know that my view is very unpopular in this.
Let me stop it for a second, because that's speaking of Tony.
Well, besides that, the way he cut Cousin Brian right off there, and that is a mistake, but then he made up his own down-home homily. Burn me once, fucking whatever the fuck he said.
We won't get fooled again.
We won't get fooled again, ladies and gentlemen. These oft-repeated phrases, but he's not leaving any wiggle room here.
Because all I've seen is, oh, it's so great, Andrade's back, and blah, 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 and who cares about his problems? And it's like, one of the biggest problems with this company has been the usage of WWE guys, but the guys who were fired, get William Regal, not a success, went back as soon as he could.
Well, let's stop it there. That's a difference. It wasn't William Regal came and he wasn't a success, so he went back. William Regal came, was used poorly, immediately slotted with an awful John Moxley idea, and then quickly realizing what a shit show it was in the back.
And get me out of here.
I just want to go home. I just want to be close to my son. I can't be close to my son while I'm working in the same country one day a week for your company. I need to be closer. So yeah, that's the William Regal example.
Malachi Black didn't do jobs, left. Rusev. It's like
last night on SmackDown, Malachi Black did a job for Sami Zayn, middle of the ring, clean job, just laid down, didn't move.
This guy wouldn't do anything in AEW, and then he goes to WWE and he's putting over Dominic. He wouldn't put over guys twice as good as Dominic in AEW.
Actually,
let me stop it there for a second.
Hold on. Who's twice as good as Dominic these days in AEW? As far as being over with the people where you would expect him to go over instead of doing a job for the other fucking guy.
Yeah, what does that mean? Better than Dominic? You just mean in terms of the moves they do in the ring without selling anything? Because if Dominic Mysterio arrived in AEW today, he'd be the biggest star in AEW by far.
Oh my God.
He'd be the Isn't that crazy? I mean, where we started. Hey, Jim, who do you think has a brighter future, Dominic Mysterio or Hook?
Hook.
And here we are. He'd be the biggest star in AEW if he arrived tomorrow. Dominic Mysterio.
Swerve was released and became a big star. Huge star.
Swerve is the exception. That's right. That is the one exception. He's not super charismatic. And one of the things that's different is before, one of the advantages that Andrade had is that, I think that AEW really wanted good Hispanic wrestlers, and he's very good. They have access to much better guys now than Andrade.
And that's where the clip ends right there. This is from Wrestling Observer Radio, posted on Twitter. Again,
Well,
Dave's qualifiers for what's good and who's good, and the advice he gives Tony on that may not be the right advice to take.
Well, my advice would have been no. What the fuck? He didn't work there. Didn't work out there before. There's not really anything special about him. The other guys didn't want him. You just look like a putz for taking in a former, an ex-boyfriend after they broke up with the fucking girl they left you for. Whatever. Adds nothing to the show. He can't book new fresh people over, much less stale blah people. I don't see this as making any difference. He's just paying more money out in fucking talent.
And even if he got a sweetheart deal and Andrade agreed to come back for pennies on the dollar, I think about Eric Bischoff always said that when Luger wanted to come back in 95, he didn't want him because he didn't like him. And all of his friends wanted him back. And he agreed to take Luger back for a cheaper deal than Luger ever signed his entire wrestling career. And Luger agreed to it, and it worked out. And eventually when he got a renewal, he got a ton of money.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's this. And Andrade is not Lex Luger. Andrade is not a guy who has ever shown that he increases the bottom line. He doesn't sell any extra tickets. He doesn't move ratings. You could argue that a lot of that's about the way he's been used, but a lot of that may just be he doesn't connect with an American audience. I don't know if he's ever connected with any audience without the mask as well as he did as La Sombra and CMLL with the mask.
I think he may be one of those people. It's better if you cover his face up.
Well, there it is. Andrade versus Omega on the horizon. Something to really look forward to.
Oh, but boy, you ain't going to want to listen to the promos, Brian, because Kenny sounds like a milkshake would if it talked. And Andrade, you can't really figure out what's going on anyway. So while you're watching them fight like a silent movie with the sound down, you know what you could do? You could listen to something else that you'd want to listen to on your Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classics. The classics have been reissued from our friends at Raycon with all the upgrades that you've come to expect. And Brian, now you can stick classic stuff in your ear and just listen to anything you want to, no matter where you are.
Well, Raycon
you walking down the street, huh?
Raycon classic, not just classic stuff. I don't know what that is.
Well, you can listen to all kind of classic stuff. You can listen to the Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
Oh.
But wherever you go, you can be walking down the street. You can be riding down the road in your car. You could be sitting in your own home, ignoring your relatives. You could be in the bathtub. And the thing is, they will not electrocute you as long as you don't stick your head under the water.
Once again,
I found that out on the internet.
I don't know what you're finding it anywhere. Let's not focus on things that are not part of...
Some people had seen that news thing where the one woman in Poughkeepsie who was in the bathtub wearing her earbuds got hit by lightning and fried her like bacon.
Jimmy,
fried her like bacon.
You heard some pleasant, happy tones there. And what that means is we're not going to focus on electricity or electrocution. We're going to focus on...
We're not going to focus on Mrs. Bacon. Katie was her name. But the new colors they have at
Electric
Raycon,
sounds.
Brian.
Electric sounds. Let's focus on that.
Well, see, the electric part was what got her in trouble. The new colors are they're just pleasant, like blush violet and cool mint. As a matter of fact, you get that feeling in your ear as well when you stick the cool mint colored in. Your ear starts burning, and all of a sudden you get shivers.
No, again, none of this happens. Let's not say any of this happens.
Well, it happened.
No, it doesn't. No. My keyboard isn't on. I did this one. That did not happen to you, and
could have been that
happen.
tick bite, is what you're saying.
I'm saying
earbuds.
None of this is anything you have to worry about. These are safe earbuds. Put them in your ear. Hear the greatest sounds, music, podcasts, audiobooks, whatever it is that you listen to. Listen to them with comfort. On the go, stylish, a style that you pick, reliable, Raycon.
That's right, reliable, quick charge, 10 minutes gives you 90 minutes of playtime. So you can put them in your ear and suck them with up to 32 hours of battery life. And the awareness mode, it's where you become instantly more aware of the trials and tribulations that you live in daily life. And then You begin contemplating ways to get even with folks who have wronged you in the past, whether they really did or whether it's only in your mind, because you're aware now with the awareness mode. And then the retribution comes. Plus, they've got a 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you don't love them, then the returns are easy. So you don't have nothing to retribute with the Raycon people about. 3 million customers have gone through this with Raycon, and you should too. And right now, those Everyday Earbuds Classic are waiting for you with 20% off. Normally they charge X dollars, but you're going to get Y dollars because you're getting 1/5 of the normal price off when you go to buyraycon, BUYRAYCON.com/JCE. You get 20% off. They're amazing. They're fabulous. They're phenomenal. And just remember, if you plan to get even with the proper people in the proper ways, you'll be much happier listening to the Raycons while you do it.
Again, I don't know what the hell that has to do with anything or what that exactly means, but you said it best. Raycon. That's it. That's all you said that I agree with so far in this entire show. Raycon, we love him here at Last Manor. I know that Stacy Cornette's a big fan over at Castle Cornette.
Yes.
And we know that you'll love him too in your house. Once again, one final time. Jim, that promo code.
Well, it's JCE like it always is. Buyraycon.com/JCE.
All right, Jim, let's get back to Dynamite. Find
right.
what you were buying from Dynamite.
Well, then you know what happened next, don't you? It was supposed to be, oh my God, these people. Last week, they did a big deal where Kyle Felcher, who they're building up to be, just the best thing ever. If he was, instead of having that whiny little down under voice or whatever, if he had a Russian accent, he could be like the next Dolph Lundgren in the Rocky movie. But nevertheless, he sounds like Alvin the Chipmunk. But they did this deal where he beat up and hospitalized Kenny, and he's fucking had a big world title match where he went 45 minutes, all this stuff they're doing. And then all of a sudden last week, they had him literally challenge this 160-pound generic masked guy that Tony's come up with a gimmick for, hologram, to a match for the TNT title on this week's TV. And somehow hologram managed to, at the very next and only time that he got in the ring or was gonna get in the ring between that challenge and this week, he got hurt. So, since he got hurt, they changed it and they stuck pockets in there for the TNT title with poor old Kyle. Because again, what are they doing there? Again, the guy looks great. The guy is an amazing athlete. The guy has a world of potential, as we've mentioned. While he needs to get a little older, a little gruffer looking, and somehow get some kind of cohesive gimmick instead of whatever their video game character they're dressing him up like most of the time. But he's learning bad habits, and he's being made to look like just one of these fucking clowns when he's bigger and has more upside than that. And then they keep putting him in with these goof. What are you going to learn of any positive consequence working with the company mascot, the 6-year-old one-note joke? And, the only good thing I've got to say about Pockets, Brian, I'll give you this. He looks like an average dipshit at the Shell station. But if you got in a fight with him over at the gas pump, he looks like he could pull a knife on you and do some damage. But you couldn't.
He doesn't.
No, if he had a knife and you didn't know it was coming, he could do something.
I don't know.
But at the same time, now that Hong Kong Phooey has arrived, even if he was coming at you with a knife, you'd have to laugh first, wouldn't you?
Depends if he does his kicks first. If he does like his little standing,
Yeah.
it's almost like a dance more than kicks. If he did that first, I don't care how bad he is, I'd start laughing.
Because Pockets could be on meth. He looks like that could be a thing.
I don't think so. He seems pretty healthy.
You see a lot of healthy people walking around with no shirt and sunglasses and fucking blue jeans with their hands stuck in their pockets.
Did you hear Danielson trying to, again, this is 6 years in, trying to give the explanation for why Orange Cassidy's an effective wrestler? Because this is his strategy. Some people may not like that he does his hands in his pockets, but it's a strategy to psych out his opponents. Because, again, and this, I'm not saying this is a good explanation, but it would have been one thing if this was the explanation in year one. We're 6 years in, and he's trying to explain the psychology behind Orange Cassidy. Which, why would any wrestler fall for that if they've seen him for 6 years straight?
6 fucking years.
It's so stupid. It's one of these self-fulfilling things from AEW. They love Orange Cassidy. He will certainly be in the AEW Hall of Fame, first class. But he's one of the main issues with this company not connecting with people.
All right, well, here's how they're taking care of Kyle, because after another fucking 15 minutes of this nonsense, of this match, Kyle's going to superplex him, but Pockets knocked him off the turnbuckle. And then Don jumps up on the apron and is like pulling his shoe off or whatever he's doing, like he's going to sneak down the apron and hit him with the shoe, but he's having to creep along because Hologram has to run out. And Hologram's late, so Don is taking forever. The referee is looking for no reason otherwise than he's just talking to fucking Pockets in the middle of the ring, or not Pocket, but you know what I'm saying, Kyle. Referee's talking to Kyle. Don is creeping in slow motion. Pockets is up on the top rope waiting. Here comes Hologram finally. Hologram runs out. Nobody cares. Nobody makes a noise. He then turns around and crotches, Hologram does, Pockets on the top turnbuckle. And then Kyle jumps up and gives him a brainbuster on the top turnbuckle. Oh, my God. And I don't know why he didn't bring out a goddamn bat just to make sure. Beat the brain into jelly. Yeah, that's the way you kill him. What the fuck? Brainbuster on the turnbuckle, 1, 2, 3. Kyle needed help to beat the company mascot. They never learn. And then they all start beating up on Pockets, and several of the baby faces run out, but all of the Don Phallus family comes out. I counted 9 plus Don. And they reveal that Hologram is really a clone of Hologram, not the real Hologram. And then the lights started flashing and the music was sputtering while they all posed there and did nothing. And we were an hour into the show. Am I exaggerating the description of that?
No, I don't think so. The idea that there's a clone, a hologram, is a whole nother booking issue we've never dealt with before. We've dealt with teleportation and how ridiculous that was in year one. But a clone, an evil clone of a bizarro hologram being here. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, you know, they've cloned the sheep.
Bizarro hologram, another member of the Callis stable, apparently.
Yes. I forget now there's 10. The sheep. I mentioned the sheep earlier. They've cloned the sheep, but at least there's a use for sheep. And you can eat them too. And then they had a 6-man tag.
What's nothing? Let's continue. Then there was a 6-man tag.
6-man tag. Dick the Boozer with Claudio and Danny Garcia against Samoa Joe and Hobbs, and Hangman Adam Page was replacing the injured Shapoopy. And hopefully he's not really hurt too. I'm telling you, they need to open up a wing in a hospital. Tony needs to have his father fund the wrestler's wing. So here's another 15 minutes of 6 guys, just whatever. And then everybody except Paige and Claudio just took bumps and rolled out of the ring and laid there dead. just rolled out and they were dead for like half a minute or more. While Paige and Claudio went back and forth, and then Paige hit the buckshot 1, 2, 3. So boom, but then Paige hands Hobbs. Hobbs is a 6-man champion, and Joe's 6-man champion, and Paige is the world champion. So Paige hands Hobbs his belt and then goes to hand Joe his, but he kind of sticks it in his chest and lets it go, and Joe drops it or doesn't have it. It falls. And then Paige picks up his belt and stagily turns to the handheld camera to make sure he's turned his back on Joe, while Joe in the background is going, "Did you see what he did to me? What the fuck? Who the fuck do you think you're talking to?" And then he gets in an argument with Paige, and the announcers, for one thing, noticed instantly, too quickly, because they were reading their notes. Oh, fucking Joe's pissed because he dropped the belt. They didn't even take time to go, wait a minute, there seems to be something happening. But then as they're arguing, Joe and Paige, 10 security guys just run into the ring for an argument. Can there be any consistency? Brian, how many times have we seen attempted hatchet murders that just went on forever? But these guys are fucking up in each other's face, cussing each other out. Oh, shit, send the troops.
And it was that bad security indie guy acting, putting your hands out. No. And then turning around to the other guy. No. What exactly?
No. Nobody can do it fake like you do.
I don't know what kind of security tactic that would be to stop anyone from doing anything.
It just halt. I'm holding up my hands here. Freeze, immobilize yourself.
Guys, you missed the Omega Assault. You better not miss this one. Go.
So then Joe is saying, you never beat me for the title. And God, at this point, it'd be wonderful if Samoa Joe was the AEW World Champion. And he shoves Paige, and they have a pull apart. And as Hobbs is trying to take Joe out, like, come on, big man, come on. I swear to God, Joe screamed, "I'll fuck your ass." And it made TV because a lot of shit was getting bleeped. But if it wasn't, "I'll fuck your ass," I don't know what it was. And they need heels. Samoa Joe would be great. He is great as a heel. He's a great promo. He's a fucking believable badass guy. He would certainly be better than what they got now, which is Adam Page as a world champion. But isn't this awful sudden? Didn't it just escalate quickly, as the kids say?
If you think Adam Page getting mad at Swerve and burning down his house was something, how mad's he going to be when Samoa Joe fucks his ass?
Well,
by the way, what kind of heel insult or heel comment? I'm going to fuck your ass.
That's what I'm saying. But we should not make any judgments. We don't know whether Paige would be upset by that, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Hobbs is like, just when you think you know a guy. Jeez.
And then they do this suddenly between these two guys when Joe has been the voice of reason as a baby. I don't know who's on the side we're supposed to be on. Paige is so unlikable to begin with as a personality. And then he was in the back after the break, cutting a promo on Joe, saying, "Yeah, I'm confused. So are we, pal. But if Joe wants a title shot, he's going to get it at Wrestle Dream." So this was the angle shot for the World Heavyweight Championship match at the pay-per-view is, "Fuck you, asshole. You dropped my belt and disrespected me. Well, let's just fucking settle this in the ring at the main event." Long-term storytelling. Is he making this shit up as they're going along, Brian?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking forward to the promo next week where Adam Page tells Samoa Joe, "I want you at your best. I always grew up really admiring you." Like all that usual shit that he does in every awful promo he does, that he tries as hard as he can to deliver with some sort of fucking feeling, but the actual words are awful. One other thought about all this. You know, Daniel Garcia being in the Death Riders has changed everything. I see him as a serious wrestler now. He really stands out. He means a whole lot more. This has all been really well done.
Oh, Christ. Hey, you can't pick up a turd by the clean end. Just remember that. So then, boy, this is an awkward transition to the ladies. Toni Storm had a match against Ty Mellayella. And Toni did another black and white dramatic reading in the theater in the round setting. But this time, I skipped the match because obviously, but the people were whatting her. Is this wearing thin, or was it just a group of assholes in Hollywood, Florida?
Maybe a mix of both.
There is a high demographic of the assholish contingent in that part of the country.
You know, but the other thing is, and AEW fans typically have really been behind the Toni Storm gimmick, which is as gimmicky as it gets. But you would almost have to think that at certain points, some fans will run out of patience with this and think, okay, it was cute for a few minutes. Now it's not. I don't know if that's what this is. I don't know what outfit she was wearing. I don't know what the hell any of this was. It was nice to see Anna Jay.
Oh, Christ. It's nice to see Anna Jay's what? Anna Jay's back, especially after seeing her front. But she looked like she was the Mad Magazine Spy versus Spy, good spy. But nevertheless, I think it's done more damage that they just involved her and they took the title off her in the miscellaneous four-way, and it's just been muddled from there and whatever the fuck. But that's nevertheless. Boy, howdy. The next match, Brian, was Blake Christian and Lee Johnson against, what are they? I can't remember what their name is, the team name, but Tia Leone and Bishop Khan. Ricochet's Stooges.
GOA.
What are they called now?
GOA. I
thought they changed it to something else.
They should change it to DOA.
Well, how about COA or COD? Collect on delivery.
That may work with Tony
deliver
Khan.
Something.
Yeah, that may work with Tony Khan. What was the name of Blake Christian and Lee Johnson? They had a tag team name, and I forgot what it was.
I did too. I didn't write it down.
This was a throwaway match. I can't imagine anyone really want to see it. I know they're trying to repackage and push GOA. They've been around for a while, not meant anything, and the Ricochet heel run is not really clicking. To me, this whole thing was about the promo and specifically MVP.
Well, yes, and that's the thing is Ricochet made himself a heel by just exposing that apparently he's a self-absorbed dick on Twitter or whatever. But then when they make him a heel, he's still not much smarter of a fucking wrestler in as far as how to actually generate money making heat with your wrestling performance rather than just being a dick to people. But nevertheless, the live crowd didn't care about the match. The heels won. The Hurt Syndicate came out to the stage, and the crowd woke up. And they were chanting. And yes, Florida is his neck of the woods, but they were chanting MVP, MVP. And he did the babyface promo and say he embarrassed himself and his boys at the pay-per-view. And he apologized to everybody for losing. And maybe, have I lost a step? But even if I can't wrestle like I used to, I can still fight better than anybody. And they challenged for a no disqualification street fight next week on TV. They've got a pay-per-view coming up, but it's going to be next week on TV. And the crowd got up for that. And Ricochet just said, oh, okay, and agreed to it. But somebody just beat the Stooges last week on TV. It was Brodito and Berger or whatever the fuck.
Brodito's the team name.
Well, but the point is they won. And they beat the Gates of Agony. So in between a 6-man tag on a pay-per-view where MVP wrestled and got beat, Then, before that, MVP and his guys come out and challenge them to a rematch no DQ street fight on TV as opposed to pay-per-view, they have the Two Stooges do a fucking job to the tag team champions in the middle of that. Start the angle on pay-per-view, beat the fucking heels that win, and then blow it off on free TV. Brian, is it if a pilot of a plane disrupted the order of events that badly, they'd crash into a goddamn mountainside every time they took off? What the fuck is this?
I can't explain that. I can't explain it. This was the biggest babyface promo I've ever seen MVP do, I think.
And it was good.
Yo, he wasn't the problem. He's never the problem.
I was about to say, I wish they'd give him some help.
Yeah.
Where's Rocky the Ramon? I need a version of I can't explain it. Anyway, then finally, the last match on this thing was Darby Allin and Chris Statlander versus Wheeler Useless and Marina Shafir. I swear to God that the WWE gave us Seth and Becky against Punk and AJ, and this is their response. Darby and Statlander against Wheeler and Shafir. And the babyfaces jumped the heels in the arena, and off we went. And by the first commercial break, they hadn't even gotten to the ring. So, again, the girls broke a table. The ring was full of chairs. They dumped out a bunch of thumbtacks. Things I've never seen before. And then the babyfaces won. And then Toni Storm came out, and she and Statlander looked at each other and just started just a clubbering each other. And they fought off. And then Dick the Boozer and the Boar Horseman walked out in a blasé fashion, wrapped a belt around Darby's neck and choked him blue in the face while Moxley threatened him in a slightly malicious fashion on the PA mic. No life, no energy, no passion, no new material. Same shit over and over. Same stuff, same people, same.
The worst of the Four Horsemen run-ins in slow motion. And they had heat. They were sitting here choking Darby Allin, and there was no heat. There were no fans that were really upset about it. They understood this is just part of the show. And also, you can't take any of this stuff with Moxley seriously. We've seen angle after angle, match after match, segment after segment ruined by Moxley and his friends that he wants to work with in a crew that isn't over, slowly coming out to just garbage music.
Slowly I turned, step by step,
to do this
inch
awful
by
shit.
inch, I killed the ratings.
Yeah, and look at where the ratings are, and we'll talk about that shortly. But the Death Riders are one of the most... John Moxley's creative ideas, from the Blackpool Combat Club, we brought up William Regal earlier, to the Death Riders, have been awful. John Moxley is not a creative guy. He's a guy who, on his best day, can be a wrestler told what to do. But when he thinks he's the singer-songwriter, we've seen what you get, which is years of bad fucking wrestling TV.
It ain't James Taylor.
And they just had a coffin match. Now I'm supposed to care about the I Quit match? What's after that? Because I can't expect that'll be the end of anything. Mimosa Mayhem?
No, one would think that Darby is not going to say I quit because that would kill his whole fucking gimmick. So the question is Moxley going to do an actual legitimate job by saying I quit in some decisive fashion to get the guy over, or is there going to be either so much interference or some cute way out of it where he doesn't actually say I quit, but it counts anyway, or just some muddled flummox that's just going to suck? We will see.
Well, another banner episode of AEW Dynamite. 6 years in the books. 6 years of Tony Khan.
You ought to get 6 years in the state pen.
Well, that was Dynamite.
But Brian, before you tell us whether anybody watched this thing or not, what are people listening to this week on the Arcadian Vanguard Network?
Another big week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information about all the shows on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard, or of course on Twitter at Superpodcast. This week on Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, his guest, Gorilla Monsoon's daughter. You're going to want to hear this. Find out more about Gino Morella than you've ever known before. SUAWpod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcast. On Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam this week, a look back at 40 years ago, the Cotton Bowl, right after Jim Cornette left World Class. Lance Von Erich arrives. Hair versus Hair Von Erichs versus Gino and Chris.
What a trade!
And so much more. Hear that today. World Class 40 years ago at McAdamPod.com. Look for Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Of course, each and every day, get your wrestling news for free. TheWrestlingNews.com directly, or wherever you find your favorite podcast, download The Wrestling News for the morning newscast. No clickbait, no paywall. Just the wrestling news. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! And your your soundbox cut out. Go through the archive once again. Go through the archive, 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcast.
How come that these fancy Dan noise filters you've got us wired up to now doesn't blank out on your sound effect there, but mine just don't pass the muster?
I don't know. I'm holding this thing down. Some people said if you hold it down, it should do it. Right now, it's doing the entire...
I'm the one who said that about an hour and a half ago.
I'm trying anything I can.
Please try to stop it. Oh, my God. It's so loud.
All right. Well, Jim...
You know what? I'll tell you what. That's going to be the equivalent of like the manager's whistle, where that's going to get somebody to come up and knock you over the head.
All right, well, Jim, let's go now to the big ratings for AEW Dynamite. Now, it's important to note,
yes,
this week is the first week we will be having numbers from Nielsen's new Big Data plus Panel methodology, as it's being called, which, according to Nielsen, as we said earlier, is supposed to be more accurate, and on its face you would think it would be, than what they previously have been doing. So the number we're getting now is a number that Nielsen is saying is more accurate, and that although it'll apply now and going forward, you have to wonder what that says about the number before this point, and how accurate that was, and how this applies to that.
The question I have, speaking for the layperson out there in the audience who just is here just to get laid, is there a way that going forward, are they just giving this number out and that's the one we're going to get? Or is there some mathematical figure, some way one of these really motivated people can figure out how to give us the old number just for shits and giggles, like that it would have been back in the old days in the before 4 time, so that we can compare and see what, because this is technically, and I'm even taking up for AEW here because they're going to get hurt worse than WWE, because WWE's numbers are all bigger to start with. They got further to fall, as one of my old financial advisors used to say. But to be fair, we're comparing them on a new scale rather than the scale that was being done before. So yes, there's going to be a difference. Is there any way to compare to the old number is my question.
I don't know if there's a direct correlation between the old number and this number and how you reconcile that. But again, what the new number is, based on what Nielsen's telling us, you would think is more accurate. And if you applied it to the previous last few years, would have changed some of the perception when people said, hey, the booking's bad. And someone said, no, they got 700,000 viewers. The booking's great. But let's go to these numbers, Jim. These numbers, AEW Dynamite on TBS, Wednesday, October 1st, 2025, 8 to 10:30 p.m. On average, did 465,000 viewers.
Holy shit.
Welcome to the new reality.
Wow. All right. Well, you know what? And I'm saying this right now. So remind me, I said it later when I forget about it. But we've got to start doing some WWE numbers too now to see how much they're going to be affected and whether this is an anomaly, because they did 400 and something thousand with the old methodology here several weeks ago. So I think we need to start looking at both numbers, what they've been up until this point and what happened when the earthquake hit. But happy 6th anniversary.
Yeah, and we'll discuss that maybe on the drive-through, how this hit has affected SmackDown and NXT. Those are the two examples we can use. Once again, last week's number was 638. The 4-week average had been 577. Those were low numbers. This is significantly lower than that. But of course, it doesn't count Max, where there must be millions of viewers consuming this dead product. Jim, let's go to the quarter hours. These were compiled by WrestleNomics. Wow. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Young Bucks angle. Josh Alexander and Young Bucks versus Brodito and Kenny Omega with picture-in-picture. 543,000 viewers.
Good Lord.
147 in the key demo. That's where they're going to get killed, because this is going to expose the key demo number, that it's not as high as these networks thought it was, not just for AEW, for WWE too, and that's where advertising dollars are based around, or that's what advertising dollars are based around. So as that number starts being exposed and dying here, the effect on wrestling will be very interesting, and it may not be a positive one. Jim, quarter 2, 8:15, 8:30 p.m. Continuation of Alexander and the Bucks versus Brodito and Kenny Omega. The post-match with the Jurassic Express, Andrade, and Don Callis. 530,000 viewers.
Well, this is, again, a different animal, but it's significant that that's the smallest drop from first quarter to second quarter ever. We got that going for them. They didn't lose but 13,000 people, and it's normally a lot more than that, but they've started in the fives.
You know, before we go even further with this, it's not that these numbers seem unreasonable. Like, looking at these numbers, knowing that we've discussed these ratings week after week for a couple of years now, a few years, this seems kind of like where you would have thought they would have been if things hadn't been shown as skewing higher for a long time. But we go to quarter 3.
Yes.
8:30 to 8:45 p.m. It says video. I'm not sure what that video was. Maybe, that was the 6-year anniversary
6th
video.
anniversary video where I didn't particularly care. They didn't create art, and it was what it was.
Well, it was nice to see Dynamite when they had fans and excitement and stars. But a video, an ad break, Mark Briscoe's backstage promo, and the start of Orange Cassidy versus Kyle Fletcher. 510,000 viewers, also 155 in the key demo. That's the high point in the key demo.
You know, to be honest, I don't know about the total numbers, but the pattern is what I would actually expect this show to be doing until the end, as we've said it for a while, and the other numbers kind of bore it out, but this bears it out more than they did, is that the people who are motivated to watch this show it's a lower number than before, but they are going to stick with it as long as they can until there's just no hope.
Well, we go to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The continuation of Fletcher versus Cassidy with picture-in-picture ads, and the post-match with Hologram, or at least Hologram Bizarro, and the Don Callis family. 517,000 viewers.
Yeah, 543, 530, 510, 517. They would have killed for that kind of consistency when they started in the 9s and 8s.
And it is important to note, big baseball game that aired this night. Red Sox and Yankees actually did the highest number for a baseball game on ESPN in forever. So there was competition, although...
Do you think there's a big Cincinnati Reds fucking AEW wrestling crossover audience?
Well, I'm not sure, but let's go now to the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. Mercedes Monet's backstage promo, as bad as ever, an ad break, and the start of Adam Page and the Ops versus the Death Riders, 490,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay, they lost 27,000 at the top of the hour. That is the biggest loss they've had at this point. Not good.
Not good at all. We go to quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The continuation of Page and the Ops versus the Death Riders, with picture-in-picture, Jet Speed, Willow Nightingale, FTR and Stokely's promo, and an ad break, 484,000 viewers.
And another 6,000 down. They are still only 59,000 down from the start of the show after an hour and a half. But the problem is they started so low to begin with. But I have to think that after quarter 8, the thing is going to plummet like a stone because they had a couple of ratings killers in there at that point.
Well, Jim, we now go to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. Adam Page's backstage promo, Tony Storm versus Ty Mello with picture-in-picture, and the post-match, 477,000 viewers.
Another 7. It's a chip, CHIP, not the other type of cracked piece.
Okay, you were done there? I wasn't sure where you were going.
I didn't want to use bad terminology.
Let's go now.
Talking about another small hunk that's been chipped out of the number.
Let's go now to quarter 8. I remind you, we have 2 segments, 30 minutes overtime here. 9:45 to 10 p.m., quarter 8. The Sammy Guevara-Eddie Kingston promo, an ad break, Samoa Joe's backstage promo, and GOA versus the Swirl.
Here's where it's going to go.
With picture-in-picture ads, 402,000 viewers.
Ouch. I didn't know it would go that far, but I hope the passengers weren't hurt when they hit that air pocket and had that sudden drop.
We go now to quarter 9, 10 to 10:15 p.m. The Demand Hurt Syndicate live angle, Chris Statlander's backstage promo.
The Demand. That's what it was.
The problem is there's no demand. Okada, Takeshita, and Don Callis' backstage angle, an ad break, and the start of Darby Allin and Chris Statlander versus Marina Shafir and Wheeler Yuta. 356,000 viewers, 96,000 in the key demo.
Oh, sweet Mary and Joseph.
Yeah, I have to say it too here because it drove me crazy, and I've brought it up before, but it happened again. Marina Shafir stepped on the thumbtacks in the match, and that looks as painful as any thumbtack thing anyone takes a bump into, just actually stepping on them. The announcers started laughing. Go back and watch that. As soon as it happened, Excalibur starts chuckling. That's your lead announcer. That's part of the problem. He's a fucking amateur. But Jim, finally, quarter 10, 10:15 to 10:30 p.m., continuation of Darby and Statlander versus Marina and Yuta. Post-match with Tony Storm and the Death Riders, 338,000 viewers, 97,000 in the key demo.
So they started with 543,000 people and lost 205,000 of them. That's fairly close. That's 40%, ain't it, or more? It's almost close to 50%, but Jesus.
It's a scary picture now for wrestling. Just real quick here at the end of these. NXT on CW, Tuesday, September 16th, 737,000 viewers. Tuesday, September 23rd, and I think this is the first week that it may have been affected, 617,000 viewers. This past week, September 30th, 572,000 thousand viewers. Wrestling
Yeah.
shows are hemorrhaging audiences with this new measurement tool. That's not good for wrestling.
Well, and if this is more accurate, they may not be hemorrhaging the audiences. They may just be getting caught with their hand in the fucking cookie jar.
That's true. That's true. And we'll stay on top of this story, but this might be a bigger story every day as we go forward. The new ratings gathering technology, methodology, and how it affects wrestling. But there's AEW Dynamite, record low rating for the show.
Brian, I'll just say this. That's why I saved all my VHS tapes. You never know when all this shit will be off the air anymore. Anyway, we're about off the air. Folks, do all the things that we told you to do during the program, and we appreciate it. And until Brian's program, next time we do a program, I'll sign this program off by saying thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.